this calming, sleep-friendly history documentary, we explore the ancient Toltec civilization.
But who were the Toltecs? This mysterious civilization laid the groundwork for the later Aztec Empire.
The Toltecs, the mysterious civilization that shaped Aztec myths and architecture.
To understand the Aztecs, we must first look to the Toltecs.
Have you ever heard a whisper from the past? A story carried on the wind from a time long gone. Today, we journey back, not just centuries, but into the realm of legend, to ancient Mexico, the heartland of mysteries. We're seeking a people so revered, so enigmatic, that even the mighty Aztecs spoke of them in hushed, awe-filled tones. They called them the Toltecs. Who were the Toltecs? This question has echoed through the halls of history for ages. Were they a real empire of flesh and blood, or a mythical race of giants and gods? The truth, as it often is, lies somewhere in the mists between fact and folklore. The name itself, Toltec, translates from the Nahuatl language as master builders or artisans. To the civilizations that followed, like the Aztecs, the Toltecs weren't just builders of stone, they were the architects of wisdom, the master craftsmen of culture and enlightenment. Imagine a world where art, spirit, and daily life were woven together into a single, beautiful tapestry. The Aztecs looked back to the time of the Toltecs as a golden age, a paradise on earth where corn grew as large as a man's hand, and cotton blossomed in vibrant, natural colors. They believed the Toltecs were so skilled that they could fashion anything, from intricate feather art to magnificent stone pyramids that seemed to touch the sky. They were seen as the bearers of civilization itself, the ones who discovered and perfected the calendar, medicine, and the sacred arts. Our journey begins in the highlands of central Mexico, around the city of Tula, or Tolan, as it was known in the legends. This is believed to be the heart of the Toltec world. Picture this: vast plazas, imposing pyramids dedicated to enigmatic gods, and colossal stone warriors standing silent guard for 1,000 years. These stoic statues, known as the Atlanteans of Tula, stare out across the plains with an unreadable expression. What secrets do they hold? What stories of glory and collapse have they witnessed? The most famous figure to emerge from these legends is a feathered serpent, a god-king named King. He was a symbol of creation, of knowledge, and of the morning star. The stories say he was a benevolent ruler who taught his people the arts and sciences, a leader who opposed human sacrifice and preached a message of peace and harmony. His tale is one of incredible influence, but also of tragic exile, promising one day to return from the Easter prophecy that would have profound and unforeseen consequences centuries later, when strangers arrived on Mexico's shores. But the Toltec legacy isn't just carved in stone or written in ancient codices. It's a living philosophy, a spiritual path that has been passed down through generations. This path speaks of personal freedom, of breaking free from the self-limiting beliefs that hold us back. It's a wisdom that teaches us to be warriors of the spirit, not fighting others, but fighting our own inner demons, our own fears and doubts. This ancient knowledge, once whispered only in sacred circles, has found its way into our modern world, offering timeless guidance on how to live a life of awareness and authenticity. As we peel back the layers of myth, we find that the historical Toltecs were likely a real, powerful civilization that flourished between the 10th and 12th centuries. They created a vast trade network, and their cultural influence spread far and wide across Mesoamerica, from the deserts of the north to the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula. Their art, their architecture, and their ideas were a powerful force that shaped the world around them and laid the groundwork for the empires that would follow. So why do they remain so mysterious? Unlike the Aztecs or the Maya, the Toltecs left behind fewer written records. Much of what we know comes from the accounts of others, filtered through layers of reverence and myth. Their decline is as shrouded in mystery as their rise. Was it internal conflict? Drought? Invasion? Invasion. The stones of Tula are silent on this matter. The Toltecs seem to vanish, their great city abandoned, leaving behind more questions than answers, and cementing their status as the legendary masters of wisdom and tea-combing. Chapters of our exploration, we will delve deeper into their world. We'll walk among the silent warrior statues of Tula, decode the symbolism of the feathered serpent, and explore the profound spiritual agreements that offer a roadmap to personal freedom. We will try to separate the historical people from the legendary figures they became. This is more than just a history lesson. It's an invitation to connect with a powerful stream of ancient wisdom that still flows today. It's a journey to understand how a civilization, spoken of more in legend than in record, could leave such an indelible mark on the soul of a continent. Thank you for joining me on this first step into the world of the Toltecs. The whispers of the past have much to teach us, if only we take the time to listen. If you're intrigued by this journey into ancient mysteries and timeless wisdom, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. We have so much more to uncover together. Until next time, stay curious. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of Mesoamerica. Last time, we witnessed the enigmatic decline of Tula, the city of the gods. Its silent, grand avenues, once teeming with life, fell into an eerie quiet, leaving behind a monumental legacy and a gaping void in the heart of ancient Mexico. For centuries, this power vacuum lingered over the central highlands. It was an era of fragmentation, of regional powers vying for influence, a time of uncertainty. But out of this shadow, a new power was about to emerge, a civilization that would build upon the foundations of the old world and forge a new one. This is the story of the Toltecs. Our story begins around the year 900 CE. Imagine the landscape of central Mexico, a rugged, high-altitude valley, cradled by volcanic peaks. The air is thin, the sun intense. Small city-states and migrating groups are scattered across this land, each carrying fragments of Teotihuacan's cultural heritage, from its architectural styles to its religious beliefs. Among these groups were the Toltec Ximeca, a people who, according to their own legends, journeyed from the north, guided by their patron deity. They were a blend of settled agriculturalists and nomadic hunter-gatherers, a dynamic fusion of cultures that would prove to be a potent force. Their legendary leader, Quetzalcoatl, or Cloud Serpent, is a figure shrouded in myth, a warrior chief who carved out a small kingdom through conquest and alliance. He led his people to a place called Culhuacan, an ancient settlement on the shores of Lake Tech. Here, the newcomers absorbed the sophisticated traditions of the valley's established inhabitants. They learned advanced farming techniques, intricate craft skills, and the complex cosmology that had been developing for centuries. This wasn't a simple conquest. It was a cultural synthesis, a melding of the rugged, pragmatic spirit of the North with the deep-rooted traditions of the South. Quetzalcoatl's story, however, takes a dramatic turn. He was betrayed and assassinated, leaving behind a young son, Xiacatl. This boy was destined for greatness. Raised in exile by his maternal grandparents, he grew to become a priest dedicated to the benevolent deity Quetzalcoatl. The Feathered Serpent. The name itself, Quetzalcoatl, was more than just a name. It was a title, a symbol of divine wisdom and legitimate rule, a powerful legacy inherited from Tula. As a young man, Quetzalcoatl returned to avenge his father, reclaiming his rightful throne and uniting the warring factions under his banner. It was Quetzalcoatl who, according to the legends, led his people to a new capital, a place that would become the heart of the Toltec world. Talanzic, known to us today as Tula. The year was approximately 968 CE. The founding of Tula wasn't just the establishment of a new city, it was the dawn of a new era. Quetzalcoatl envisioned a capital that would be a center of art, knowledge, and spiritual enlightenment. He promoted the arts and crafts, discouraged human sacrifice in favor of offerings of butterflies and snakes, and fostered an age of peace and prosperity. Tula was to be a paradise on earth, a reflection of the celestial order. Let's explore the city of Tula itself. Located in what is now the state of Hidalgo, about 60 miles north of modern-day Mexico City, the site rises from a dry, arid plain. As you walk through the archaeological site today, the first thing that strikes you is its military and ceremonial core. The main plaza is dominated by a 5-stepped pyramid, Pyramid B, often called the Temple of the Morning Star. And standing atop this pyramid are the iconic figures that have come to define the Toltecs. The Atlantean warriors, these colossal statues, each over 15 feet tall, are carved from basalt rock. They are not gods, but idealized Toltec warriors, dressed in full regalia. Look closely at them. They wear feathered headdresses, intricate butterfly-shaped breastplates, and sandals. On their backs, they carry a solar disk, a symbol of their connection to the sun god. In their hands, they once held spears and spear throwers, known as Atl. These were not just decorations. They were pillars. They once supported the temple roof, embodying the idea that the Toltec military might was the very foundation upholding their sacred world. They stare out across the valley with an unyielding gaze, a permanent guard watching over their empire. They are the quintessential image of the Toltec ideal. The warrior monk, a fusion of military prowess and spiritual devotion. But Tula was more than just its warriors. The city layout itself reveals a sophisticated understanding of urban planning and cosmology. The ceremonial precinct includes other important structures like Pyramid C, the largest pyramid on the site, and the Burnt Palace, a complex of halls and colonnades whose charred pillars are a silent testament to the city's eventual violent end. We also see the Kutpan, or Serpent Wall, a stunning frieze decorated with carved reliefs of snakes devouring skeletal figures, a powerful symbol of cosmic cycles of creation and destruction. And of course, there were the ball courts, where the sacred Mesoamerican ball game was played, a ritual that was part sport, part religious ceremony, often with life or death consequences. The influence of Tula spread far and wide. Toltec ceramics, particularly the distinctive plumbate, where with its metallic sheen, have been found as far south as Costa Rica and as far north as the American Southwest. Their architectural and artistic motifs, the feathered serpents, the eagles and jaguars devouring hearts, the skull racks known as Visampantili, became a new international style, adopted and adapted by cultures across The Toltecs established a vast trade network, controlling the flow of precious goods like turquoise, obsidian, and exotic feathers. They were seen by later civilizations, most notably the Aztecs, as the ultimate ancestors, the master craftsmen and intellectuals of a golden age. For the Aztecs, to have Toltec blood was to have a claim to nobility and legitimacy. However, the golden age under Quetzalcoatl was not to last. The legends tell of a deep ideological conflict that tore the city apart. On one side was Quetzalcoatl, representing peace, art, and knowledge. On the other side were the followers of Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, a powerful, unpredictable god of war, sorcery, and night. Tezcatlipoca's priests demanded a return to the older traditions of militarism and human sacrifice. Through trickery and magic, Tezcatlipoca shamed Quetzalcoatl, forcing him to flee Tula and abandon his city. According to one version of the myth, the disgraced Quetzalcoatl journeyed east to the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. There, he set himself ablaze on a funeral pyre, his heart rising into the sky to become the morning star, Venus. In another version, he set sail on a raft of serpents, promising that one day, in a year of Si'ikada, he would return from the east to reclaim his throne. This prophecy would have profound and tragic consequences centuries later when the Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernan Cortes, arrived on the shores of Mexico in 1519, Si'ikatl year. With the departure of Quetzalcoatl, Tula fell under the influence of the warlike faction. The city became more militaristic, its art reflecting a darker, more violent worldview. But this new order was also unstable. The internal strife, combined with pressures from drought, famine, and invading groups from the north, began to weaken the Toltec state. Around the year 1150 CE, after roughly 2 centuries of dominance, Tula was attacked, burned, and abandoned. The great Atlantean warriors were toppled from their perch, and the burnt palace lived up to its name. The Toltec Empire collapsed. The fall of Tula, however, did not mean the end of Toltec influence. Just as the Toltecs had built upon the legacy of Teotihuacan, the civilizations that followed would build upon theirs. Toltec refugees spread across central Mexico, carrying their skills, their stories, and their prestige. With them, they founded new dynasties and integrated into other cities, most notably in the Valley of Mexico, where their descendants would contribute to the rise of the last great Mesoamerican empire, the Aztecs. The Toltecs became a bridge, a crucial link connecting the classic world of Teotihuacan to the post-classic world of the Aztecs. They were the giants of their time, and their shadow would stretch across the centuries. So, while their capital lay in ruins, the Toltec spirit lived on. They were remembered not just as conquerors, but as the master builders, the epitome of civilization. Their story, a blend of historical fact and epic myth, became a foundational narrative for the peoples of ancient Mexico. It's a tale of migration and settlement, of a priest-king and a dark sorcerer, of a golden age and a dramatic fall. It is the story of how, from the ashes of one great civilization, another rose to define its world. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the birth of the Toltec world. It's a fascinating story of how culture, myth, and power intertwine. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next chapter, where we will journey to the Yucatan Peninsula to explore the stunning world of the Maya at Chichen Itza and uncover its surprising connections to the Toltecs. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of Mesoamerica. Today, we venture into the heartland of a civilization shrouded in legend, a people whose name became synonymous with artistry and power. Our destination is their magnificent capital, Tula, or as it was known in their time, Tolan. Imagine stepping back 1,000 years. The air is crisp, the sky a brilliant blue over the highlands of modern-day Hidalgo, Mexico. Before you, rising from the earth, is a city built not just of stone, but of ambition and vision. This is Tula, the thriving seat of Toltec power. A metropolis that, for a time, was the center of the world for countless people. As we walk its ancient avenues, a sense of order and deliberate design is undeniable. Tula was not a chaotic jumble of buildings. It was a carefully planned urban center. A grand central plaza, vast and ope, served as the city's heart. This was where ceremonies unfolded, where markets buzzed with life, and where the pulse of the empire could be felt most strongly. The layout speaks of a society that valued community, ritual, and a clear social structure. Surrounding this plaza are the structures that have made Tula legendary. Let's first turn our attention to Pyramid B, perhaps the most iconic structure in the entire city. This stepped pyramid, though not as towering as those of Teotihuacan or the Maya, possesses a unique and formidable presence. Its purpose was both religious and political, a stage for the rulers and priests to connect with the divine and assert their authority over the populace. As we approach its base, you can almost hear the echoes of ancient chants and the rhythmic beat of drums that once filled this sacred space. Climbing to its summit, we are greeted by one of the most astonishing sights in all of ancient America. The Atlantean figures. These are not mere statues. They are colossal warrior columns, each standing over 15 feet tall. Carved from basalt, these four stoic figures once supported the roof of a temple that crowned the pyramid. Look at the intricate details: the butterfly-shaped breastplates, the feathered headdresses, the otlots, or spear throwers, held at their sides. They are not abstract gods. They are idealized Toltec warriors, guardians of their king and their faith, frozen in time. Their stern expressions and powerful stances project an image of unyielding strength and martial prowess, a clear message to all who entered this sacred precinct. They represent the fusion of military might and religious duty that defined the Toltec elite. Let's descend from the pyramid and walk towards the adjacent structure, the Palacio Quemado, or the Burned Palace. The name tells a story of Tula's eventual, fiery decline. But in its heyday, this was a sprawling complex of halls and colonnades. Imagine rows of pillars, many of them intricately carved, holding up vast roofs. This was the administrative hub of the empire, a place of council meetings and royal audiences. Excavations here have revealed benches lining the walls, where nobles and dignitaries would have sat. It was within these halls that decisions affecting trade routes, alliances, and warfare were made. The palace's design, with its multiple rooms and courtyards, reflects a complex and sophisticated bureaucracy. Nearby, we find another of Tula's marvels, the Quetzalcoatl, or Serpent Wall. This is not just a wall. It's a monumental frieze, a stone tapestry depicting a procession of serpents devouring skeletal figures. The symbolism is powerful and complex, likely representing themes of sacrifice, death, and cosmic cycles. The craftsmanship is exquisite, each scale and bone rendered with precision. This wall separated the sacred ceremonial core of Tula from the rest of the city, creating a boundary between the divine and the mortal realms. Standing before it, you feel a sense of awe and perhaps a little intimidation, which was surely the intended effect. Tula was also a city of ball courts. We can see the remains of at least 2 major ones here. The Mesoamerican ball game was more than just a sport. It was a ritual of cosmic significance, often associated with astronomical events, and sometimes culminating in human sacrifice. The U-shaped courts, with their sloping walls, were arenas where myth and athletic skill collided. The outcome of a game could be seen as a divine omen, influencing political and military decisions. Beyond the ceremonial center, Tula extended outwards, a bustling city of artisans, merchants, and farmers. Workshops produced the fine pottery and obsidian blades, for which the Toltecs were renowned throughout Mesoamerica. Their influence, carried by traders and warriors, reached as far as the Yucatan Peninsula, where the Maya city of Chichen Itza shows a remarkable and undeniable Toltec architectural influence. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the plaza, the stone columns and pyramids of Tula take on a serene, almost ethereal quality. The wind whispers through the ruins, carrying tales of god-kings, legendary artists, and a city that for centuries was a beacon of civilization. Tula was the embodiment of the Toltec spirit, proud, artistic, and powerful. It was a place where a myth was carved into stone, and where an empire's legacy was built to last for eternity. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of the magnificent Toltec capital. The story of Tula is a vital chapter in the grand narrative of Mesoamerica, a testament to the incredible achievements of its people. If you've enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the ancient world. We'll see you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the annals of history. Today, we're stepping back in time, over 1,000 years ago, to walk the streets of Tula and experience the vibrant, complex world of the Toltec civilization. What was it really like to live as a Toltec? What did they eat? What did they create? And how was their society structured? Forget the myths for a moment. Let's uncover the human story, the daily rhythm of life in one of Mesoamerica's most influential cultures. So, grab your curiosity and let's explore the Toltec way of life. Imagine the first light of dawn spilling over the central highlands of Mexico. The air is cool and crisp. In the fields surrounding the great city of Tula, a farmer begins his day. For the vast majority of Toltecs, life was tied to the land. Agriculture was the bedrock of their civilization. They were master farmers, skillfully cultivating maize, beans, and squash, the sacred trinity of Mesoamerica diet, along with amaranth, chiles, and avocados. They understood the seasons, the soil, and the preciousness of water, likely employing sophisticated irrigation techniques like canals and terracing to make the semi-arid landscape bloom. Their daily labor wasn't just work. It was a sacred partnership with the earth, ensuring the survival and prosperity of their entire community. Every planting season was a ritual, every harvest a celebration. This deep connection to agriculture was the heartbeat of Toltec society. As the sun climbs higher, the city of Tula awakens. While farmers toiled in the fields, the city's heart pulsed with the sounds of artisans at work. The Toltecs were renowned for their extraordinary craftsmanship, a reputation that echoed through Mesoamerica for centuries. The very word Toltec came to mean master artisan in the later Aztec language. Picture workshops bustling with activity. Potters, their hands coated in clay, spinning elegant vessels decorated with intricate geometric patterns and depictions of their gods. Stonemasons, with incredible precision, carving the colossal Atlantean warrior columns and friezes of eagles and jaguars that still awe us today. Their skill was not just technical, it was a form of devotion, embedding their cosmology and beliefs into every piece they created. They were also pioneers in metallurgy, working with gold, silver, and copper to craft delicate jewelry and ceremonial objects. This artistic explosion wasn't just for show, it was an expression of their identity and power. Trade was the lifeblood that connected the Toltec heartland to the wider world. Their influence wasn't just spread by conquests, but by commerce. Tula was a major commercial hub, a crossroads of ancient trade routes that stretched for hundreds, if not thousands, of miles. From the Pacific coast came shimmering seashells and exotic feathers. From the Gulf Coast, they imported rubber and cacao. But perhaps their most significant trade commodity was obsidian. The Toltecs controlled major obsidian sources, a volcanic glass that was the Mesoamerican equivalent of steel. It was used to create razor-sharp blades, arrowheads, and ritual objects. Caravans of traders, known as Pachteca, would trek across challenging terrains, facilitating not just the exchange of goods, but also the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural styles. This vast network solidified Toltec influence, making their art and ideology recognizable from the Yucatan Peninsula to what is now the American Southwest. So, how was this complex society organized? Toltec social structure was a pyramid, with the rulers and high priests at the very top. This elite class, believed to be descended from the gods, lived in the most opulent residential complexes near the ceremonial center of Tula. They directed the state's religious rituals, commanded the armies, and managed the vast trade networks. They were the patrons of the great art and architecture that defined the Toltec legacy. Below them was a powerful warrior class. The Toltecs were a militaristic society, and warriors held a high status, celebrated in art and likely enjoying significant privileges. Their duty was to defend the empire and expand its borders. Further down were the artisans, traders, and other specialists who fueled the urban economy. And at the base of the pyramid, forming its foundation, were the farmers, the commoners whose daily labor supported everyone else. While rigid, this structure provided order and stability, allowing each person to understand their role within the grand, cosmic, and social order. As the day winds down, the city's character shifts once more. Let's imagine a sprawling marketplace, a tianguis, coming alive under the evening sky. This wasn't just a place to buy and sell. It was the social epicenter of Toltec life. People from all walks of life would gather here. The air would be filled with 1,000 smells and sounds. The aroma of roasting corn, the chatter of merchants haggling over prices, the laughter of children, and perhaps the distant sound of music from a nearby ceremony. You could find everything here. Farmers selling their surplus crops, potters displaying their latest creations, traders offering rare goods from distant lands like brilliant turquoise and vibrant macaw feathers. It was a place for exchanging news, arranging marriages, and settling disputes. The market was a microcosm of the Toltec world, a dynamic, bustling space where the entire community came together, reinforcing social bonds and celebrating the fruits of their collective labor. As darkness fully envelops the valley, the fires in the homes and temples glow like scattered stars. For the Toltecs, the night was not just an absence of light. It was a time of spiritual significance, a domain of powerful deities like Quetzalcoatl, the smoking mirror. Priests would perform nocturnal rituals, studying the stars to divine the future and ensure cosmic balance. For the common family, it was a time for rest, for storytelling, and for passing down a rich oral tradition of myths and legend stories of Quetzalcoatl, of epic migrations, and the creation of the world. Life in the Toltec world was a continuous cycle, moving from the practical labor of the day to the spiritual reflection of the night. Every moment imbued with meaning and purpose. Their existence was a carefully choreographed dance between the human and the divine, the earth and the cosmos. And so, we see a civilization that was so much more than just its imposing monuments. The Toltec way of life was a rich tapestry woven from the threads of agriculture, artistry, trade, and a deeply held social and cosmic order. From the farmer in his field at dawn to the priest communing with the stars at midnight, every individual played a vital role in this remarkable culture. They were a people of immense skill, profound belief, and enduring influence, whose legacy helped shape the future of Mesoamerica. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the daily life of the Toltecs. I hope it gave you a new appreciation for the people behind the legends. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please give this video a thumbs up. And do you forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. Until next time, stay curious. Welcome back to our journey into the heart of the Toltec civilization. Today, we delve into one of its most fascinating and defining aspects. The war. How did a society blend the spiritual with the martial, the heavens with the battlefield? Let's uncover the secrets of these remarkable figures who walked the line between enlightenment and earthly power. Imagine a society where the path of the warrior and the path of the priest were not separate, but two sides of the same coin. This was the Toltec way. For them, true strength wasn't just about physical prowess. It was about inner discipline, spiritual awareness, and a profound connection to the cosmos. The warrior priests were the living embodiment of this ideal. Individuals who were as skilled with a Quetzalcoatl as they were with celestial calendars and sacred rituals. This wasn't a simple case of priests picking up weapons. It was a deeply philosophical system. The Toltecs believed the universe was in a constant state of flux, a cosmic battle between light and darkness, creation and destruction. The role of humanity, and particularly these elite leaders, was to maintain balance through personal discipline and collective ceremony. The warrior's discipline on the training ground mirrored the priest's discipline in meditation and ritual. Both were seen as essential contributions to cosmic harmony. At the heart of this ideology was the concept of the flowery war, or exio. While this could involve real combat, its primary purpose was often ritualistic. These weren't wars for territorial conquest in the modern sense. Instead, they were sacred contests designed to capture high-ranking warriors for sacrifice. To the Toltecs, this was the ultimate offering, a way to feed the gods, particularly the sun god, and ensure the continuation of the cosmic cycle. It was a profound act of devotion, where the warrior's life force was returned to the source of all life. The symbolism of the eagle and the jaguar, which we see everywhere in Toltec art, represented the two primary warrior orders. The eagles were the warriors of the sun, soaring in the daytime sky, representing celestial power and vision. The jaguars were the warriors of the night, masters of the earth and the underworld, representing stealth, strength, and the mystical. A warrior priest had to master the qualities of both the clear vision of the eagle and the grounded power of the jaguar. This duality was central to their identity. The legendary ruler of Tula, Quetzalcoatl, is the quintessential example of the warrior priest ideal. He was both a revered king and a high priest of the Feathered Serpent god, from whom he took his name. His story, a blend of history and myth, tells of a wise ruler who promoted art, science, and a more spiritual, less sacrifice, heavy form of worship. However, his reign was challenged by followers of the more warlike Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. This conflict, often depicted as a struggle between two powerful deities, perfectly illustrates the tension within the warrior-priest concept, the balance between peace and war, spiritualism and militarism. The architecture of Tula itself is a testament to this fusion. The Pyramid of the Morning Star, or Pyramid B, is famously adorned with friezes depicting processions of warriors, jaguars, and eagles, all marching in a sacred, orderly fashion. And of course, there are the iconic Atlantean figures. These colossal veranda of mitoral statues aren't just pillars. They are representations of idealized Toltec warriors. Standing stoic and eternal, they wear butterfly-shaped pectorals, a symbol of the warrior's soul, and carry their otlot, or spear thrower, at their side. They are guardians, not just of the temple, but of the very cosmic order the Toltecs sought to uphold. They are the ultimate warrior priests, carved in stone for eternity. This unique combination of roles gave the Toltec elite immense authority. They weren't just kings who commanded armies. They were spiritual guides who interpreted the will of the gods. Their power was derived from both the tangible threat of their military and the intangible, yet equally potent, power of faith. They controlled the calendars, presided over rituals, and led warriors into battle. This consolidation of power was a key factor in the Toltecs' ability to build and maintain their influential sphere across Mesoamerica for centuries. But how was this balance maintained? Through rigorous training and education. From a young age, those destined for leadership would have been schooled in both martial arts and spiritual doctrines. They would learn the movements of the stars, the stories of the gods, the techniques of combat, and the importance of self-seek. It was a holistic education designed to create a complete individual, a person who understood that true power came from mastering both the inner and outer worlds. The legacy of the Toltec warrior priest echoed through the ages, profoundly influencing later civilizations, most notably the Aztecs. The Aztecs revered the Toltecs as their intellectual and cultural ancestors, adopting much of their political and religious structure. The Aztec concept of the emperor as a semi-divine figure, their own eagle and jaguar warrior orders, and their emphasis on ritual sacrifice all have deep roots in Toltec tradition. The warrior priest wasn't just a Toltec phenomenon. It became a defining archetype for Mesoamerican leadership. In the end, the warrior priests represent the Toltec genius for synthesis. They took to seemingly opposite forces, the destructive power of war and the creative power of religion, and wove them into a single, cohesive worldview. They demonstrated that military might, when guided by spiritual wisdom and a sense of cosmic duty, could be a force for order and stability. The Toltec warrior priest stands as a powerful symbol of a society that saw no contradiction between the sword and the spirit, but instead saw them as essential partners in the sacred dance of existence. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the Toltec war. Their story reminds us that power can take many forms, and true strength often lies in balance. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the ancient world. See you in the next chapter. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the annals of mythology. Today, we venture into the heart of ancient Mesoamerica to uncover the story of one of its most fascinating and enigmatic figures, Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent. This name, whispered with reverence for centuries, belongs to a being who was both a powerful deity and a legendary king, a symbol of the profound duality that defines so much of ancient American thought. Imagine a creature that embodies both the earth and the sky. The Quetzal part of his name comes from the resplendent Quetzal bird, with its vibrant, emerald green plumage that shimmered like jewels in the jungle canopy. This bird represented the heavens, freedom, and the divine spirit. The Quetzal part means serpent, a creature deeply connected to the earth, the waters, and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Together, Quetzalcoatl is the serpent that flies, the bridge between the material world and the spiritual realm. He is the union of opposites, a concept that lies at the very core of his identity and influence. The worship of a feathered serpent deity can be traced back thousands of years, long before the rise of the Aztecs who made him famous. Evidence suggests his cult was present in Teotihuacan, the colossal city of the gods, as early as the 1st century BC. But it was during the era of the Toltecs, who dominated central Mexico from roughly 900 to 1158, that the legend of Quetzalcoatl truly crystallized. For the Toltecs, he was not just a god to be worshipped from afar. He was a living, breathing ruler, a priest king who founded their magnificent capital, Tolan, or Tula. According to the legends, this king, whose name was Quetzalcoatl, was a visionary leader. He was a patron of the arts, a master of sciences, and a purveyor of knowledge. It was said that under his reign, the cotton grew in brilliant colors right from the plant, and the corn cobs were so large a single man could barely carry one. He taught his people how to read the stars, to measure time, to craft exquisite jewelry from gold and jade, and to create breathtaking art with feathers. Tula became a utopia, a city of unparalleled creativity and intellectual achievement. But what truly set Quetzalcoatl apart were his teachings. In an era where human sacrifice was becoming an increasingly central part of religious practice, Quetzalcoatl advocated for a different path. He was a god of life, creation, and mercy. He taught that the gods did not hunger for human hearts, but instead desired offerings of flowers, incense, jade, and butterflies. He preached peace, compassion, and learning, a philosophy that stood in stark contrast to the aggressive, militaristic cults of other deities, most notably his dark twin and rival, Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. Tezcatlipoca was everything. Quetzalcoatl was not. He was the god of night, of war, of sorcery, and of unpredictable fate. He represented chaos, conflict, and the brutal necessities of survival. The myths tell of a great struggle between these two forces. Tezcatlipoca, jealous of the peace and prosperity of Tula, devised a plan to disgrace the pure-hearted king. Through trickery and magic, he and his fellow conspirators tempted Quetzalcoatl, getting him to drink pulque, an alcoholic beverage. Intoxicated, the king broke his sacred vows of celibacy and purity. Waking the next morning, consumed by shame and remorse, Quetzalcoatl realized he could no longer lead his people. His moral authority was shattered. Heartbroken, he decided he must leave Tolan. The stories of his departure are filled with sorrow. As he left, the vibrant city fell into ruin. The colorful cotton turned white, the cacao trees withered, and all the marvelous birds that followed him flew away. His journey took him east, towards the Great Sea, the Gulf of Mexico. There, in one version of the myth, he built a funeral pyre of turquoise and set himself ablaze, his heart rising into the sky to become the morning star, Venus. In another, more famous version, he constructed a raft of serpents and sailed away to the east, promising that one day, in the year of his birth, Quetzalcoatl, he would return to reclaim his kingdom. This prophecy of return would have earth-shattering consequences centuries later. When the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived on the shores of Mexico in 1519, it was the year Quetzalcoatl in the Aztec calendar. The Aztec Emperor Moctezuma, too, a devout follower of Quetzalcoatl's teachings, was deeply troubled. Could this pale, bearded man arriving from the east be the returning Feathered Serpent? This uncertainty, this deep-seated belief in the ancient prophecy, played a crucial role in the initial interactions between the Aztecs and the Spanish, ultimately contributing to the downfall of one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. The gentle god of peace's legacy became tragically intertwined with a brutal conquest. The story of Quetzalcoatl is a poignant tale of a golden age lost, of a leader whose ideals were too gentle for a harsh world. He represents the eternal human struggle between knowledge and ignorance, peace and war, spirit and flesh. He is the morning star, a beacon of hope that appears just before the dawn, promising a new day and the potential for a better world. His influence stretched across Mesoamerica, with different cultures adopting and adapting him. To the Maya, he was known as Kukulkan, a name with the exact same meaning, Feathered Serpent. The magnificent pyramid at Chichen Itza is a testament to his power, designed so that on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the shadow of a great serpent appears to slither down its steps. Even today, Quetzalcoatl remains a powerful symbol in modern Mexico, representing the nation's rich indigenous heritage and the enduring quest for knowledge and enlightenment. His story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, the ideals of peace, creativity, and wisdom can shine brightly like a star in the pre-dawn sky, waiting for the right moment to return and illuminate the world once more. The Feathered Serpent may have sailed away, but his spirit, woven into the art, history, and soul of a continent, never truly left. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legend of Quetzalcoatl. It's a story that's both beautiful and tragic, and it really shows the complexity of the ancient world. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into mythology and history. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of myth and legend. Today, we delve into one of Mesoamerica's most poignant and consequential tales, the exile of Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent. This story isn't just a myth. It's a prophecy, a tragedy, and a cultural cornerstone that would shape the destiny of an entire civilization. Our story begins in the magnificent city of Tula, the legendary capital of the time. Under the wise and benevolent rule of its priest-king Quetzalcoatl, Tula flourished in a golden age. Imagine a city where art wasn't just decoration, but a sacred language, where knowledge of the stars guided daily life, and the earth yielded its bounty without the need for human sacrifice. Quetzalcoatl was a patron of learning, a champion of peace, and a symbol of civilization itself. He taught his people how to polish jade, weave intricate cotton textiles, and chart the cosmos. Under his guidance, Tula was a beacon of prosperity and enlightenment. But paradise, as is often the case in mythology, attracts envy. Lurking in the shadows was a rival deity, a powerful and cunning figure who represented the very opposite of Quetzalcoatl's ideals. This was Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, the god of night, sorcery, and conflict. Where Quetzalcoatl embodied light and order, Tezcatlipoca thrived in darkness and chaos. He saw the harmony of Tula not as a triumph, but as an imbalance that needed correcting, a weakness to be exploited. Tezcatlipoca, a master of disguise and deception, resolved to bring down the beloved king. He understood that he couldn't defeat Quetzalcoatl through brute force. The Feathered Serpent's spirit was too strong, his people's love too pure. No, the attack had to be on his character, a corruption from within. And so, the smoking mirror began to spin his web of intrigue. One day, Tezcatlipoca appeared at the gates of Tula, disguised as a wrinkled old man. He claimed to have a gift for the king, a wondrous medicine that could soothe his worries and restore his youthful vigor. Guards initially turned him away, but his persistence was unnerving. News of the mysterious visitor eventually reached Quetzalcoatl, whose curiosity was piqued. Intrigued, the king granted the old man an audience. Inside the palace, the disguised Tezcatlipoca presented Quetzalcoatl with a polished obsidian mirror. As the king gazed into its dark reflective surface, he saw not the dignified ruler he was, but a frail, aging man. For the first time, Quetzalcoatl felt the weight of his own mortality. Doubt, a seed of despair, was planted in his heart. Seeing his plan working, Tezcatlipoca offered him the cure, a frothy, fermented beverage from the maguey plant pool. He told the king it was a magical elixir that would wash away his sorrow and aging. Trusting the seemingly wise elder, Quetzalcoatl took a sip. Then another. The potent drink, something he had never tasted before, clouded his judgment and loosened his famously rigid self. His mind, usually as clear as a mountain spring, became foggy and confused. The god of order was descending into chaos. Under the intoxicating influence of the pulque, Tezcatlipoca's deception deepened. He then brought forth Quetzalcoatl, a priestess, who in some versions of the myth was Quetzalcoatl's own sister. In his drunken state, the king broke his sacred vows of celibacy and piety. He had betrayed everything he stood for. The next morning, the sun rose on a world shattered. As the fog of intoxication lifted, Quetzalcoatl was crushed by the horrifying clarity of his actions. The shame was unbearable. He, the symbol of purity and spiritual discipline, had succumbed to base, earthly temptation. He had failed his people, he had failed himself, and he had failed the gods. He looked at his city, the perfect jewel he had so carefully crafted, and saw only the reflection of his own disgrace. He knew he could no longer rule. His moral authority was gone. With a heavy heart, he declared his intention to leave Tula. The city fell into mourning. The people wept, begging their beloved king not to abandon them. The sky itself seemed to gray with sorrow. The birds stopped singing, and the vibrant flowers of Tula began to wilt. The golden age was over. Quetzalcoatl gathered his most loyal followers, artists, and craftsmen. He ordered his magnificent palaces of gold, jade, and shells to be burned. He buried his treasures deep in the earth, ensuring the remnants of his glorious reign would be hidden from the world. His departure was a funeral procession for an entire era. As he journeyed east toward the Great Sea, Everything he touched withered. The cacao trees, which had once produced the food of the gods, turned into thorny mesquite. The birds that followed him, once brightly colored, turned a mournful gray. It was as if nature itself was grieving his fall from grace. Finally, he reached the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. There, the end of his terrestrial journey unfolded in a blaze of mythological grandeur. According to one version of the story, he donned his spectacular feathered regalia and his turquoise mask one last time. He then walked into a funeral pyre, his body consumed by flames. From the ashes, his heart ascended into the heavens, transforming into the morning star, Venus, a perpetual promise of his return. In another, more famous version, he constructed a raft of serpents. Standing tall upon it, he sailed eastward across the sea, disappearing over the horizon. But before he left, he made a solemn vow to his grieving people. He promised that one day, in a year designated as CE, Acatal, or one reed, in the Mesoamerican calendar, he would return from the east to reclaim his throne and restore his kingdom to its former glory. This promise of return became the single most powerful prophecy in the Aztec world. The departure of Quetzalcoatl left a void not just in Tula, but in the spiritual landscape of Mesoamerica. His story was a cautionary tale about the fragility of even the most perfect society and the corrupting influence of temptation. The people of Tula, and later the Aztecs who inherited their culture, waited. They watched the eastern horizon. They tracked the cycles of the calendar, counting down the years until CE Acatl. Centuries later, this myth would have devastating real-world consequences. In the year 1519, which just so happened to be a one-reed year, ships appeared on the eastern horizon. On board were pale-skinned, bearded men from an unknown land, led by Hernan Cortes. For the Aztec Emperor, Moctezuma, the arrival of these strangers presented an earth-shattering question. Was this the prophesied return of the benevolent Quetzalcoatl, or was it the arrival of something far more destructive? The uncertainty, rooted in this ancient myth of a shamed god and his promised return, would play a crucial role in the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. The myth of Quetzalcoatl's exile is a powerful reminder of how stories can shape history. It's a tale of brilliance and betrayal, of shame and hope, that echoed through the centuries and ultimately sealed the fate of a civilization. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into mythology. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the legends that define our world. Until next time, keep questioning and keep learning. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of history. Today, we stand at a somber crossroads as we explore Chapter 8, The Decline of Tula. For centuries, the Toltec Empire was a beacon of power and culture in Mesoamerica, a civilization that sculpted stone giants and commanded vast territories. But like all great empires, its golden age was destined to end. Join me as we uncover the story of how this mighty civilization crumbled, how its grand plazas fell silent, and how its legacy was almost lost to the sands of time. Imagine the city of Tula at its zenith. Bustling markets, priests performing ceremonies atop towering pyramids, and the iconic Atlantean warrior statues standing as stoic guardians over a thriving metropolis. It was a center of art, religion, and military might, influencing cultures far and wide. The Toltecs were masters of their world. But beneath this veneer of strength, the seeds of destruction were already being sown. The story of Tula's fall isn't one of a single, catastrophic event, but rather a slow, agonizing unraveling caused by a perfect storm of crises. One of the first and most relentless enemies the Toltecs faced was nature itself. Climate change, a force we are all too familiar with today, began to grip the region. Prolonged periods of drought descended upon the Valley of Mexico. The once fertile fields that fed the sprawling population of Tula started to wither. Corn, the lifeblood of Mesoamerican society, became scarce. The intricate irrigation systems the Toltecs had engineered could no longer compensate for the lack of rain. This led to widespread famine. Imagine the desperation of a farmer looking up at a cloudless sky, day after day, while his family starves. The granaries emptied, and the specter of hunger haunted every household, from the humblest dwelling to the royal palaces. This scarcity didn't just weaken the people physically, it shattered the social contract. The rulers, believed to have a special connection with the gods, were now seen as powerless. Their rituals and prayers for rain went unanswered, and faith in their leadership began to erode as quickly as the topsoil from their parched fields. As hunger gnawed at the heart of the empire, internal strife began to tear it apart from within. The social fabric, already strained by famine, started to rip. The decline of Tula is famously chronicled in legends surrounding its final rulers, particularly the struggle between two powerful figures. Quetzalcoatl, Quetzalcoatl, a benevolent priest-king, and his rivals, followers of the fierce war god Tezcatlipoca. This wasn't just a political squabble. It was a deep, ideological conflict. Quetzalcoatl was said to advocate for peace, knowledge, and artistic pursuits, while the followers of Tezcatlipoca championed military expansion and human sacrifice. This internal power struggle likely mirrored a real-world factionalism that paralyzed the Toltec government. As nobles and priests fought for control, the state weakened. Resources that could have been used to manage the famine were instead spent on internal conflicts. The unity that had been the bedrock of Toltec strength dissolved into suspicion and civil unrest. The city that once stood as a testament to collective achievement became a battleground of competing ambitions. This internal decay made Tula vulnerable, like a wounded animal, unable to defend itself. And predators were circling. The Toltec Empire had long been a dominant force, but its weakening grip on the surrounding territories did not go unnoticed. Various groups, often referred to collectively as the Chichimeco nomadic and semi-nomadic peoples from the arid north, began to press southward, driven by the same climatic shifts that caused the famine in Tula. These groups were looking for new lands and resources. In the past, a strong Toltec military could have easily repelled these incursions. But now, with a starving population and a divided leadership, the once impenetrable borders became porous. These invasions were likely not a single, coordinated assault, but a series of raids and migrations that gradually chipped away at Toltec territory. Each raid further destabilized the region, disrupting trade routes and forcing outlying settlements to be abandoned. The Toltec military, weakened and demoralized, could no longer protect its people. The guardians of the empire were failing. The final years of Tula must have been a terrifying spectacle of decline. Picture the scene. The grand plazas, once filled with the vibrant sounds of commerce and ceremony, are now eerily silent. Weeds grow between the cracks of the magnificent stone pavements. The colossal Atlantean statues, which once projected an image of unshakable power, now stand as lonely sentinels over a ghost town. Their stern faces seem to gaze out at a horizon that no longer holds promise, but only threat. The temples, where elaborate rituals were once performed, are now deserted, their altars cold. The palaces of the elite are looted and empty. Their former occupants either fled or fallen. The monuments, the very symbols of Toltec identity and achievement, begin to crumble, not just under the weight of time, but under the heavy burden of neglect and despair. Archaeological evidence supports this narrative of a slow, painful collapse. Excavations at Tula have revealed signs of deliberate destruction. Buildings were burned, and statues were toppled and defaced. This suggests a violent end, perhaps a final, cataclysmic sacking of the city by invaders, or maybe even a desperate, furious uprising by its own starving populace, turning on the symbols of the failed state that had let them down. It's likely a combination of both. The collapse was not a clean break, but a messy, violent, and tragic process. Around the year 1150 CE, the city of Tula was largely abandoned. The fires went out, the voices faded, and the once mighty capital was reclaimed by the earth. The fall of Tula sent shockwaves across Mesoamerica. The power vacuum it left was immense. For centuries, the Toltecs had been the standard-bearers of civilization. The people of the city whom later cultures, including the Aztecs, would look back upon with awe and reverence. The Aztecs, in fact, would claim direct descent from the Toltec nobility to legitimize their own rule, elevating the fallen city to a near-mythical status. They saw the Toltecs as master craftsmen, architects, and warriors, the creators of all things beautiful and civilized. The word Toltec itself became synonymous with artist or master craftsman in the Nahuatl language. So, while the city of Tula fell and its empire disintegrated, its legacy endured. The Toltec diaspora spread throughout Mesoamerica, carrying with them their knowledge, their art, and their stories. They influenced the development of subsequent civilizations, ensuring that even in its death, the Toltec spirit lived on. The story of Tula's decline is a powerful cautionary tale. It shows how even the most sophisticated and powerful societies are vulnerable. It reminds us that no empire is eternal and that the forces of climate, internal division, and external pressure can bring down even the mightiest of giants. The silent, crumbling stones of Tula are not just relics of a forgotten past. They are a timeless lesson, speaking to us across the centuries about the fragility of civilization and the enduring cycle of rise and fall that defines human history. The once grand plazas may be silent now, but if we listen closely, we can still hear the echoes of a great empire's last breath. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the fall of Tula. It's a somber but crucial chapter in the grand story of our world. If you found this journey into the past insightful, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring history. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the incredible world of Mesoamerica. For the past few chapters, we've walked the grand avenues of Tula, marveled at the Atlantean warriors, and explored the rise of the Toltec Empire. But as we know, all great empires eventually face their twilight. Tula, once a shining beacon of power and culture, began to fade. Internal strife, climate change, and pressure from outside groups all contributed to its decline around the year 1150. A great city emptied, its monuments left to the wind and sun. But here's the fascinating thing about history, and especially about the Toltecs. The end of a city is not the end of a story. In fact, it's often the beginning of a new, more widespread chapter. What happens when a vibrant culture, a center of knowledge and innovation, disperses? The people may scatter, but they don't just disappear. They take their ideas, their beliefs, and their skills with them. This is the true legacy of the Toltecs, not the stone that remained in Tula, but the knowledge that flowed out across Mesoamerica, planting seeds that would blossom in a dozen other cultures for centuries to come. So, how exactly did this happen? Picture this. As Tula's influence waned, Toltec artisans, priests, and nobles began to migrate. They traveled south to the Valley of Mexico, east toward the Gulf Coast, and far into the Yucatan Peninsula. They weren't just refugees. They were carriers of a prestigious and powerful cultural package. Local rulers in other cities, eager to boost their own legitimacy and prestige, welcomed these newcomers. Marrying into Toltec lineages or hiring Toltec architects became a way to claim a direct link to the legendary city of Tolan, a name that had become synonymous with civilization itself. This cultural transmission wasn't just about political maneuvering. It was about a profound exchange of ideas. One of the most visible fingerprints the Toltecs left is in architecture. We've talked about the iconic features of Tula, the grand colonnaded halls, the use of shakmuls, those distinctive reclining figures holding a Feathered Serpent columns. Suddenly, these exact features begin to appear in cities hundreds of miles away. The most stunning example is Chichen Itza, the great Maya city in the Yucatan. For a long time, scholars debated the connection. Was Chichen Itza conquered by the Toltecs, or was it a more complex relationship? Today, most believe it was a powerful fusion of cultures. When you visit Chichen Itza, you can see this blend everywhere. The Temple of the Warriors at Chichen Itza is almost a mirror image of Pyramid B in Tula, complete with rows of carved warrior columns and a chakmul at the top. The Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, known to the Maya as Kukulkan, becomes a central figure, his image dominating the city's main pyramid. It's as if a group of Toltec master builders and artists collaborated with their Maya counterparts, creating a new, hybrid style that was both Maya and Toltec, and something entirely new. This wasn't a simple copy-paste. It was a creative dialogue between two of Mesoamerica's greatest civilizations. Beyond architecture, the Toltec artistic influence was immense. Their specific style of carving, depicting processions of warriors, eagles, and jaguars, devouring human hearts, became a hallmark of elite art in many post-Tula societies. These motifs weren't just decorative. They carried deep cosmological meaning. They represented military orders, sacrificial rituals, and the sacred duties of rulers. When a smaller kingdom adopted these symbols, they were also adopting the Toltec worldview, a universe maintained through warfare, sacrifice, and the divine authority of a warrior elite. This warrior ethos, so central to Toltec identity, became a dominant theme across central Mexico for the next 300 years, setting the stage for the rise of their most famous successors. And who were those successors? None other than the Aztecs, or as they called themselves, the Mexica. The Aztecs, who arrived in the Valley of Mexico long after Tula's fall, built their entire origin story around the Toltecs. They saw themselves not as innovators, but as the rightful heirs to the Toltec legacy. They revered the Toltecs as master craftsmen and intellectuals, referring to them as Toltecoatl, a word that came to mean the embodiment of art, culture, and all civilized knowledge. To be Toltec was to be a master artist, a wise ruler, a keeper of ancient wisdom. The Aztec rulers went to great lengths to connect their lineage directly back to the Toltec kings. They conducted archaeological digs at the ruins of Tula, reverently collecting artifacts and reinterring them in their own Templo Mayor in their capital. It was the ultimate act of historical appropriation by physically bringing pieces of Tula into their sacred center. They were declaring themselves the inheritors of its power and glory. They adopted Quetzalcoatl as a primary deity and incorporated Toltec myths into their own complex cosmology. The stories we know today about the five suns, the creation of humanity, and the epic struggle between Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca were likely refined and codified by the Toltecs before being passed down to and recorded by the Aztecs. So, when the Spanish arrived and began documenting Aztec culture, much of what they were recording was, in fact, the echo of Toltec civilization. The Aztec Empire, in many ways, was a conscious and deliberate revival of the Toltec model, but on an even grander scale. The social structure, the religious rites, the military organizational, bore the unmistakable imprint of Tula. This legacy wasn't confined to the powerful Aztecs. Smaller kingdoms and city-states throughout Mesoamerica also claimed Toltec heritage. Mixtec Codices, the beautiful painted books from the Oaxaca region, often depict their rulers with Toltec insignia. The culture of the Aztecs on the Gulf Coast shows clear Toltec influences in their sculpture and ceramics. The Toltec diaspora acted like a cultural catalyst, sparking new artistic and political developments wherever its people settled. They didn't just build buildings. They built dynasties. They didn't just carve stone. They carved the very identity of the cultures that followed. It's a powerful lesson in what legacy truly means. It's not just about the monuments that survive, but about the ideas that refuse to die. Tula as a physical city had a lifespan of a few centuries, but Tula as an idea, as the legendary Tolan, the golden standard of civilization, became immortal. It lived on in the art of Chichen Itza, in the religion of the Aztecs, and in the political language of kings and queens across the land. The Toltecs provided a blueprint for what a great Mesoamerican empire could be, a model of power, art, and cosmic order that would inspire and intimidate for generations. Even today, the word Toltec continues to hold a certain mystique, often associated with spiritual wisdom and personal freedom, thanks to modern interpretations of their philosophy. While these modern views are very different from the historical reality of the warrior culture we've discussed, it speaks to the enduring power of the Toltec name. So, as we close this chapter, remember that the fall of Tula was not an ending. It was a transformation. The knowledge, art, and ideology cultivated within its walls were too powerful to be contained. They flowed out, irrigating the cultural landscape of Mesoamerica, and ensuring that even though their great city crumbled, the spirit of the Toltecs would be reborn again and again in the empires that rose from their ashes. They achieved a different kind of immortality, not in stone, but in the minds and hands of their descendants. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the incredible legacy of the Toltec people. It's a testament to how ideas can be more enduring than empire. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to uncover together. As always, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello and welcome back to our journey through the incredible history of Mesoamerica. Today, we're diving into Chapter 10, the arrival of the Aztecs. Picture this. Centuries have passed since the height of the great Toltec civilization. The Valley of Mexico, a land rich with history and the echoes of powerful empires, is about to witness the dawn of a new era. A new group of people, energetic and ambitious, are making their way into this legendary valley. These are the people we now know as the Aztecs. Now, the Aztecs weren't the first to arrive in this bustling, fertile basin. The valley was already a mosaic of different city-states and cultures, all vying for influence and resources. But the Aztecs, or the Mexica as they called themselves, brought with them a unique drive and a profound sense of destiny. They were newcomers, outsiders, in a way, searching for a place to call home. Their journey was long and arduous, guided by the prophecies of their patron god, Huitzilopochtli. This deity had promised them a sign-in eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent which would mark the spot for their great city. Imagine the scene: a nomadic tribe, traveling through unfamiliar territory, holding on to this divine promise. It was this unwavering faith that fueled their perseverance through countless challenges. They were skilled warriors and pragmatic survivors, but what truly set them apart was their deep reverence for the past. As they settled and began to observe the great ruins and cultural traditions around them, one civilization, in particular, captured their imagination: the Toltecs. In the Aztec worldview, the Toltecs weren't just a previous empire. They were legendary, almost mythical figures. The Aztecs looked back at the Toltec capital of Tula as a golden city, a place of unparalleled artistry, wisdom, and power. They saw the Toltecs as the ultimate architects of civilization, the creators of all fine arts, from intricate metalwork to sophisticated calendars. To the Aztecs, the Toltecs were the progenitors of all legitimate rule and high culture. They were, in essence, the gold standard of what a great society should be. This admiration was so profound that it became deeply embedded in Aztec culture and politics. The word Toltec itself transformed into a synonym for artisan or wise man. If you were a master featherworker or a skilled sculptor, you were called a Toltec. This wasn't just a casual compliment. It was the highest form of praise, linking your work directly to the legendary masters of the past. The legacy of Tolan was a source of immense inspiration for Aztec artists and thinkers, who sought to emulate and even surpass the achievements of their revered predecessors. But this reverence went far beyond the arts. It was a crucial element of political legitimacy. For the Aztecs, to rule was to be connected to the Toltec lineage. Their own leaders, the Tlatoani, sought to establish a direct ancestral link to the Toltec kings. They fabricated genealogies and embraced Toltec traditions to solidify their right to govern. In a world of competing city-states, claiming Toltec heritage was like claiming a divine right to rule, a mandate passed down from the gods themselves. In fact, the Aztecs adopted the very title Toltec as a supreme honorific for their own rulers and nobility. An Aztec leader wasn't just a king, he was a Toltec, a bearer of that ancient, sacred authority. This was a brilliant political strategy. By positioning themselves as the rightful heirs to this legendary civilization, the Aztecs legitimized their own rapid expansion and their eventual dominance over the Valley of Mexico. They weren't just conquering. In Tierrais, they were restoring the glory of a bygone golden age. Think about the power of that narrative. The Aztecs weren't just building an empire, they were reviving a legacy. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was conceived as a new Tolan, destined to be the center of the universe. This connection to the Toltecs gave them a powerful sense of identity and purpose. It helped unify their people and justify their ambitions to their neighbors. They were casting themselves as the inheritors of a grand tradition, the restorers of order and civilization in the valley. This deep respect for the Toltecs is a fantastic example of how civilizations build upon the foundations of those who came before them. History isn't just a series of disconnected events. It's a continuous story, with each new chapter drawing inspiration and legitimacy from the pages of the past. The Aztecs didn't just arrive in the Valley of Mexico. They wove themselves into its historical fabric, claiming the mantle of its most revered ancestors to forge their own incredible destiny. Their story is a powerful reminder that where we come from often shapes where we believe we are destined to go. And that's where we'll wrap up for today. The arrival of the Aztecs and their strategic embrace of the Toltec legacy set the stage for the rise of one of the most powerful empires in the Americas. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical exploration. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the fascinating world of the Aztecs, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to our journey through history. Today, we're diving into a fascinating story of cultural borrowing, hero worship, and the art of building an empire on the foundations of the past. We're talking about the Aztecs and their deep, almost obsessive admiration for the civilization that came before them. The legendary This isn't just about copying. It's about a people consciously weaving another's legacy into their own, blending myth with memory to create something entirely new. This is the story of borrowed stones and borrowed myths. So, who were the Aztecs? When they arrived in the Valley of Mexico in the 13th century, they were relative newcomers, a nomadic group looking for a place to call home. They were surrounded by established city-states that could trace their lineages back for generations. To put it simply, the Aztecs were seen as outsiders, upstarts, without a prestigious history. How do you legitimize your rule in a place like that? How do you go from being wanderers to the masters of a vast empire? The Aztec answer was brilliant. You link yourself to the most revered, most powerful civilization of the past, the Toltec. The Toltecs, who had flourished centuries earlier, were remembered as giants, master artisans, and wise rulers. Their capital, Tollan, or modern-day Tula, was viewed as a golden age paradise, a city of architectural marvels and immense knowledge. For the Aztecs, the Toltecs weren't just a historical people, they were the embodiment of civilization itself. The very word Toltec became synonymous with artisan or master craftsman. To be descended from the Toltecs was to have a divine right to rule. So, the Aztecs began a massive project of historical and cultural appropriation. They claimed their own ruling dynasty was descended from the last Toltec king, creating a direct bloodline to this legendary past. It was a masterful political move, instantly elevating their status from outsiders to rightful heirs. But this wasn't just a story they told. They made it real, physically and spiritually. Let's talk about the stones. Aztec architects and builders didn't just look at pictures of Toltec buildings. They actively studied the ruins of Tollan. They saw the grand pyramids, the colonnaded halls, and the imposing warrior statues, the famous Atlantean figures. And they said, "We'll do that, but bigger and better." The Aztec Templo Mayor in their capital Tenochtitlan was a direct spiritual successor to the pyramids of the past. They incorporated architectural elements, like the distinctive serpent, columns and Chacmu statues reclining figures holding offering vessels, which were classic Toltec designs. It was a conscious echo, a way of saying, the spirit of Tollan lives on here, in Tenochtitlan. Even more incredibly, the Aztecs became the first archaeologists of the Americas. They literally dug into the ruins of older cities like Teotihuacan and Tollan. What did they find? They unearthed precious artifacts, jade masks, finely crafted pottery, and stone carvings. But they didn't just put them in a museum. They revered these objects as sacred relics. An ancient mask from Teotihuacan was found reverently buried as an offering within the Templo Mayor, treated as a holy object connecting the Aztecs to the divine power of their predecessors. They would take entire stone monuments from Toltec sites and transport them, sometimes over great distances, to be reinstalled in Tenochtitlan. Imagine the effort. They were physically borrowing the stones of the past to build their present, infusing their new capital with the tangible history and sacred energy of the Toltec. Now, let's talk about the myths. The central figure in this story is the legendary Feathered Serpent god. For the Toltecs, Quetzalcoatl was a priest-king of Tollan, who was forced into exile, vowing to one day return. The Aztecs adopted this story with gusto. Quetzalcoatl became one of the most important deities in their own pantheon, a creator god and a patron of knowledge, priests, and merchants. The Aztec rulers portrayed themselves as followers of Quetzalcoatl's teachings, framing their own religious practices as a continuation of ancient Toltec rituals. They essentially took the greatest hero of the Toltecs and made him their own. By embracing the Quetzalcoatl myth, the Aztecs weren't just borrowing a god. They were borrowing a divine mandate. They were the ones carrying on the sacred traditions, the ones keeping the cosmic order that the Toltecs had established. This blending of myth and memory permeated every aspect of Aztec art. If you look at Aztec sculpture, you can see this beautiful duality. On one hand, you have their own unique style, powerful and sometimes fearsome, like the famous statue of the goddess Quetzalcoatl. But on the other hand, you see a deliberate return to a more naturalistic, classical style reminiscent of Toltec art. They produced sculptures that were so Toltec-like that for a long time, archaeologists had trouble telling them apart. This wasn't a lack of originality, it was a deliberate choice. By creating art in the Toltec style, they were producing instant heirlooms, creating a manufactured antiquity that gave their own culture a sense of deep-rooted history. They were essentially saying, our artists are the new masters, the new Toltecs. So what does this all mean? The Aztec relationship with the Toltecs is a masterclass in empathy. They understood that power isn't just about military might. It's about having a compelling story. By casting themselves as the inheritors of the Toltec legacy, the Aztecs gave themselves the legitimacy they needed to rule. They created a powerful national identity rooted in a glorious, semi-mythical past. They used borrowed stones. The actual architecture and artifacts do give their claims physical weight, and they used borrowed myths, the stories of Quetzalcoatl and the Golden Age of Tula to give their rule divine purpose. This conscious modeling shows us how memory can be shaped and how history can be used as a tool. The Aztecs weren't just passive recipients of tradition, they were active curators of the past, selecting, reinterpreting, and amplifying the elements that best served their vision for the future. They built their magnificent capital, Tenochtitlan, not just with mortar and stone, but with stories and legends. In doing so, they ensured that while the Toltec Empire had fallen, its spirit reimagined and magnified would form the very foundation of the Aztec world. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes, to build something new, you must first stand on the shoulders of giants. Thanks so much for watching and exploring this incredible chapter of history with me. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments what you think about this amazing strategy of cultural borrowing. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the incredible mythologies of Mesoamerica. Today, we redive in deep into the heart of the Aztec Empire to meet one of its most complex and fascinating deities. He's a creator god, a cultural hero, a king, and a symbol of renewal. He is the Feathered Serpent, the legendary Quetzalcoatl. Now, if you've been following along, you'll remember we first met a version of this figure with the Toltecs. But in the hands of the Aztecs, the myth of Quetzalcoatl was transformed, elevated into a cornerstone of their entire worldview. He wasn't just one god among many. He was a fundamental force, a bridge between the heavens and the earth, the spiritual and the material. So, who exactly was Quetzalcoatl to the Aztecs? The name itself gives us a clue. Quetzal refers to the beautiful Quetzal bird, with its long, iridescent green tail feathers, symbolizing the heavens, the sky, and all things precious. Coatl means serpent, a creature bound to the earth, representing fertility, rebirth, and the land itself. Together, Quetzalcoatl is the Feathered Serpent, a perfect union of opposites, a being who embodies the sacred duality of existence. In the Aztec pantheon, Quetzalcoatl wore many hats. As a Quetzalcoatl, he was the god of the wind. It was his breath that swept the path clean for the rain gods. The Tlaloc, to bring life-giving water to the crops. Imagine the ancient Aztecs feeling the wind pick up before a storm. To them, that wasn't just a change in weather. It was the sacred presence of Quetzalcoatl, announcing the coming of rain and the promise of a good harvest. He was the gentle breeze and the mighty gale, a force of nature that was both powerful and essential for life. But his influence went far beyond the wind. Quetzalcoatl was also revered as a god of learning, science, and the arts. The Aztecs believed he was the one who brought them knowledge. He gave them the calendar, a complex and incredibly accurate system for tracking time, organizing rituals, and planning agricultural cycles. He was the patron of priests and the inventor of books and ceremonies. He taught humanity the arts of goldsmithing, featherworking, and carving jadal skills that the Aztecs prized and excelled at. In a way, Quetzalcoatl was the divine teacher, the one who lifted humanity out of ignorance and gifted them with civilization itself. One of the most powerful stories about Quetzalcoatl is his journey to Mictlan, the underworld. According to the myth, after a previous creation of the world was destroyed, the gods gathered to figure out how to create a new race of humans. Quetzalcoatl volunteered for the perilous mission. He traveled to the land of the dead, ruled by the fearsome god Mictlantecuhtli, to retrieve the precious bones of the people who had lived in the previous age. The journey was filled with trials. Mictlantecuhtli was a trickster and didn't want to give up the bones. He set impossible tasks for Quetzalcoatl, but with the help of his animal spirit guide, the Xalotl, and some clever thinking, Quetzalcoatl succeeded. He gathered the bones and began his escape from the underworld. But just as he was about to emerge, he stumbled and fell, scattering the bones and breaking them into different-sized pieces. This is a beautiful and poignant detail. Quetzalcoatl gathered the broken fragments and brought them back to the world of the living. There, the gods ground the bones into a fine powder. Quetzalcoatl and other deities then performed a sacred ritual of self-sacrifice, letting their own blood onto the bone meal. From this mixture of sacred bones and divine blood, the current race of humanity was born. The story explains why people are all different shapes and sizes because the bones were shattered. More importantly, it established a profound concept in Aztec thought, that humanity was created from sacrifice, and therefore owed a debt of sacrifice back to the gods. Life itself was a precious gift, bought at a divine price. This theme of sacrifice is central to understanding. But here's a fascinating twist. While the Aztec religion is often associated with large-scale human sacrifice, Quetzalcoatl himself was said to oppose it. In the legends of his time as the priest king of Tula, he promoted offerings of jade, snakes, birds, and butterflies instead of human lives. This created a major conflict between him and his rival, Tezcatlipoca, the god of the night sky and sorcery. Tezcatlipoca, whose name means smoke and mirror, was Quetzalcoatl's opposite in every way. Where Quetzalcoatl represented light, learning, and order, Tezcatlipoca embodied darkness, conflict, and chaos. The two were locked in an eternal cosmic struggle. Legend says that Tezcatlipoca tricked Quetzalcoatl. He showed the pious king his own reflection in a smoking obsidian mirror, making him see himself as old and frail. Then, the trickster god got Quetzalcoatl drunk on pulque, a fermented agave drink. And in his intoxicated state, Quetzalcoatl broke his priestly vows. Filled with shame and regret, Quetzalcoatl abdicated his throne and left his city of Tula. He traveled east, toward the Great Sea, the Gulf of Mexico. There, according to one version of the myth, he built a funeral pyre, adorned himself in his divine regalia, and immolated himself. His heart rose from the flames, transforming into the morning star, Venus. This is why Quetzalcoatl is also Tlahuizcalpantu, the Lord of the Dawn. His story is one of fall and redemption, of death and glorious rebirth in the heavens. Another, and perhaps more famous, version of the story says that he didn't die but sailed away on a raft of serpents, promising that he would one day return from the east to reclaim his kingdom. He was prophesied to return in a CE year, or one reed, according to the Aztec calendar. This prophecy would have monumental, and ultimately tragic, consequences for the Aztec Empire. By a staggering coincidence of history, the year 1519, the very year that the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés landed on the shores of Mexico, was a one-reed year. Cortés was light-skinned, bearded, and arrived from the east, just as the legends described Quetzalcoatl. The Aztec Emperor Moctezuma, to a deeply religious man, was thrown into a state of uncertainty and fear. Was this the returning god? Or was it something else entirely? This hesitation and initial welcome, born from a deep-seated religious belief, gave the Spanish a crucial advantage that they ruthlessly exploited. The myth of the returning Quetzalcoatl, once a symbol of hope and renewal, became entangled in the brutal reality of conquest and the downfall of the very civilization that revered him. So, from a creator god to a cultural hero, from a symbol of priestly piety to a star in the morning sky, Quetzalcoatl is a figure of incredible depth. He embodies the Aztec understanding of the universe, a place of duality, of constant struggle between light and dark, order and chaos. He is a symbol of the preciousness of knowledge, the power of sacrifice, and the eternal promise of renewal. His myth is a reminder that the stories we tell ourselves have real power, shaping our actions and, sometimes, even our destinies. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legend of the Feathered Serpent. The story of the Aztecs is far from over, and the legacy of Quetzalcoatl continues to fascinate us to this day. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Imagine journeying back in time to the heart of the mighty Toltec Empire, to the ancient city of Tula. Here, standing tall against the sky, are some of the most enigmatic and powerful statues ever carved. The Atlantean figures. These aren't just stones, they are colossal warriors, guardians frozen in time, and today, we're unlocking their secrets. Welcome back to our series exploring the wonders of ancient civilizations. In this chapter, we delve into the iconic Atlanteans of Tula. Standing over 15 feet tall, these four figures once supported the roof of a temple atop the Pyramid of the Morning Star. But who were they? And what story do they tell? Let's take a closer look. Each warrior is composed of four intricately carved sections of basalt stone, stacked one on top of the other. Their faces are stern, almost impassive, projecting an aura of immense power and authority. They are not depicted as gods, but as elite Toltec warriors, adorned in full ceremonial battle dress. Look closely at the details. On their chests, they wear a stylized butterfly pectoral, a symbol often associated with warriors and the soul in Mesoamerican cultures. This wasn't just decoration. It was a badge of honor, a spiritual emblem connecting them to the divine. In one hand, they grasp an atlatl, a spear thrower that was a devastatingly effective weapon, capable of launching darts with incredible force and accuracy. This identifies them clearly as soldiers. In their other hand, they hold a bundle of darts and a curved weapon, likely a type of ceremonial knife or club. Every element of their attire speaks of their status. They wear elaborate headdresses adorned with feathers, intricate back discs that likely functioned as shields, and sandals on their feet. These weren't common soldiers. They were the Emperor's elite guard, the very embodiment of Toltec military might. Think about the sheer effort required to create these masterpieces. The basalt stone was quarried miles away and transported to Tula without the use of wheeled vehicles or beasts of burden. It was then painstakingly carved with stone tools. The precision and artistry are astounding, a testament to the skill of Toltec craftsmen. The fact that they were designed to be structural supports for a massive temple roof only adds to their engineering marvel. They were both art and architecture, a fusion of form and function that is simply breathtaking. But why were they created? These figures served multiple purposes. As columns, they had a practical function, holding up the temple roof. Symbolically, they were the eternal guardians of this sacred space, watching over the ceremonies and rituals that took place within. They were a powerful statement to any visitor, friend or foe, about the strength and order of the Toltec state. Standing in their presence, you would have felt a sense of awe and intimidation, a clear message that you were in the domain of a powerful and well-defended empire. The name Atlanteans is actually a modern term, given by later explorers who compared them to the mythical Atlas of Greek mythology, who held up the sky. The Toltecs themselves would have simply seen them as representations of their most revered warriors. These figures were so influential that their legacy echoed through the centuries. When the Aztecs rose to power, they revered the Toltecs as their intellectual and artistic predecessors. Aztec artists and rulers visited Tula, studied these warrior columns, and incorporated similar motifs and styles into their own monumental art in their capital. Tenochtitlan. The spirit of the Tula warriors marched on, inspiring a new empire. Imagine the scene 1,000 years ago. The pyramid plaza, bustling with people, the air thick with the scent of incense, and above it all, these 4 stone giants standing sentinel. They were witnesses to the rise and fall of their city, to ceremonies, battles, and the passage of time itself. They weren't just statues. They were the soul of the Toltec warrior class, immortalized in stone. They remind us that behind every great empire is a foundation of strength, discipline, and a deep sense of identity. Today, standing in the ruins of Tula, these figures continue to captivate us. They are a direct link to a lost world, a powerful reminder of the incredible achievements of the Toltec civilization. They challenge us to look beyond the stone and see the people, the beliefs, and the power they represent. These stone warriors have stood for a millennium, their silent watch a testament to the enduring legacy of one of Mesoamerica's greatest cultures. Their story is one of power, artistry, and influence that continues to inspire awe and wonder. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to ancient Tula. The story of our shared human history is written in stone, and there are so many more chapters to explore. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And do you not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome, bike seekers of ancient wisdom, to our journey through the echoes of time. Today, we step into the sacred spaces of the Toltecs to explore Chapter 14, the temple architecture and sacred geometry. Let's quiet our minds and listen to the stones, for they have a story to tell, a story of cosmos, creation, and connection. Imagine standing at the base of a Toltec pyramid as the first light of dawn kisses its peak. These weren't just buildings. They were cosmic mountains, stone replicas of the sacred landscape, built to bridge the gap between the earthly realm and the celestial heavens. The Toltecs were master astronomers and architects, weaving their understanding of the stars into the very fabric of their cities. Their most iconic structures, like the Pyramid of the Morning Star, or Paramebe, at their capital, Tula modern day. Tula were meticulously aligned with celestial events. Picture the precision. The corners of a temple pointing to the exact position of sunrise on the solstice, or a staircase oriented to capture the light of Venus at a key moment in its cycle. This wasn't just for show. It was a living calendar, a clockwork of stone and light that synchronized human life with the rhythms of the universe. Every ceremony, every planting season, was dictated by this divine alignment, turning the entire city into a sacred instrument. The Toltecs' primary building material was stone, often covered in a smooth layer of stucco plaster, which served as a canvas for their vibrant art. Think of their construction process as a form of meditation. Each block was carefully chosen, shaped, and placed, not just with physical effort, but with intention. They employed a technique known as talitablero, a distinctive architectural style featuring a sloping base, the talid, topped by a vertical, often decorated panel, the tablero. This created a dynamic, terraced profile that seemed to ascend toward the sky, drawing the eye and the spirit upward. Now, let's look closer at the surfaces of these temples. They weren't blank walls. They were narratives carved in stone, alive with powerful symbolism. The Toltecs adorned their sacred spaces with a pantheon of potent imagery. You would see the prowling jaguar, a symbol of the night, the earth, and the shaman's power to traverse the spiritual underworld. Its fierce gaze was a reminder of the potent forces that lie just beyond our perception. Then there's the Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl, a being of duality. The serpent represents the earth and the material world, while the vibrant feathers of the Quetzal bird symbolize the spirit and the celestial realm. This powerful icon, slithering across friezes and columns, embodied the Toltec ideal of transcending our earthly limitations to achieve spiritual enlighten, the union of heaven and earth within a single being. And we can't forget the eagles, soaring high above. They were the messengers of the sun, symbols of courage, vision, and divine authority, often depicted devouring hearts in their talons. They represented the warrior's sacred duty to sustain the cosmos through sacrifice and devotion. Jaguars, serpents, and eagles, these weren't just decorations. They were spiritual guardians, embodying the core tenets of Toltec cosmology and the warrior's path. One of the most breathtaking examples of this artistry is the coat panelli, or serpent wall, at Tula. This magnificent frieze, stretching 4 meters, depicts a procession of undulating serpents, a powerful boundary marking the sacred precinct and protecting it from the profane world outside. Other reliefs show processions of warriors and nobles, their elaborate regalia detailed with incredible precision, telling stories of lineage, conquest, and ritual. And of course, we must speak of the Atlanteans, the Icani, colossal stone warrior figures that once supported the roof of the Pyramid B temple. Standing nearly 15 feet tall, these 4 stoic figures are masterpieces of Toltec sculpture. Each one is a warrior in full regalia, holding a spear thrower, or atlatl, and a bundle of darts. They are not portraits of individuals, but archetypes of the perfect Toltec warrior, powerful and eternally vigilant. Standing in their presence, you can feel their silent, unyielding strength, a testament to the discipline and spirit that the Toltecs held so dear. The precision of Toltec architecture was not just about aesthetics or celestial alignment. It was a manifestation of their philosophy. The perfect angles, the smooth surfaces, the symmetrical layouts all reflected a belief in order, balance, and harmony. Building a temple was an act of bringing cosmic order down to earth. This profound understanding of sacred geometry, the belief that divine principles can be expressed through geometric forms, was a cornerstone of their civilization. The legacy of these master builders echoed powerfully through Mesoamerica. When the Aztecs rose to power centuries later, they looked back to the Toltecs as the golden standard of civilization. They revered them as the great artists and architects of a bygone era. So, when the Aztecs built their own magnificent capital, Tenochtitlan, and its spiritual heart, the Templo Mayor, they consciously emulated Toltec styles. The Aztecs adopted the Tablero form, the use of serpent imagery, and the alignment of temples with cosmic events. They even incorporated actual Toltec artifacts into their own sacred offerings, physically bringing a piece of the revered past into their present. The influence was so profound that Aztec rulers would claim Toltec ancestry to legitimize their right to rule. In essence, the temples of Tenochtitlan were a direct spiritual and architectural inheritance from the masters of Tolan. The echo of Toltec chisels could be heard in the grandest city of the Aztec Empire. So, as we conclude our exploration of Toltec temples, let's remember them not just as ancient ruins, but as powerful engines of cosmic harmony. They are a testament to a people who saw no separation between the spiritual and the physical, who built their beliefs into the very landscape, and whose genius for sacred geometry left an indelible mark on the civilizations that followed. Their stone legacy continues to inspire awe and wonder, reminding us of the timeless human quest to find our place within the grand, cosmic design. Thank you so much for joining me on this leg of our journey. If you found this exploration enlightening, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more chapters from the annals of ancient wisdom. Until next time, walk in balance. Welcome, bike history lovers and art enthusiasts. Today, we journey back in time to the heart of ancient Mesoamerica to uncover the profound artistic legacy of the Toltec. Get ready to explore a world where every carving and every color tells a story of gods, warriors, and the delicate balance of the cosmos. This is Chapter 15. Toltec Art and Symbolism. Before the Aztecs rose to prominence, the Toltecs dominated central Mexico from their magnificent capital, Tolan, which we know today as Tula. But they weren't just fearsome warriors. They were master artists and architects, leaving behind a legacy that would influence cultures for centuries to come. Their art is a captivating blend of serene power and intricate detail, a visual language that speaks of their deepest beliefs. Let's start with the most iconic symbols of Toltec power: The Atlantean figures of Tula. These colossal statues, standing nearly 15 feet tall, are not just pillars holding up a temple roof. They are stylized representations of Toltec warriors, stoic and formidable. Look closely at their attire. They wear butterfly-shaped breastplates, a symbol associated with warfare and the soul. Te, Karian, asterisk, Atlatl, asterisk, or spear thrower, in one hand, and a bundle of darts and a curved knife in the other. Their headdresses are adorned with feathers, signifying their high rank. These aren't just portraits. They are archetypes of the ideal Toltec warrior, disciplined, powerful, and ready to defend their cosmic order. Each figure is carved from 4 separate sections of basalt, a testament to their incredible engineering and masonry skills. Imagine standing at the base of the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, looking up at these silent guardians. You'd feel an undeniable sense of awe and respect for the civilization that created them. But Toltec art wasn't all about warfare. A deep spiritual undercurrent flows through their work, centered around the concept of cosmic balance. One of the most fascinating examples of this is the Quetzalcoatl, or serpent wall, that surrounded the sacred precinct of Tula. This wall was covered in vibrant painted reliefs. One side depicted rows of undulating feathered serpents, a clear reference to the god Quetzalcoatl, the bringer of knowledge, arts, and civilization. On the other side, we see haunting images of skeletons being devoured by giant rattlesnakes. This striking contrast wasn't meant to be simply macabre. It represents the fundamental duality of life and death, creation and destruction. The feathered serpent symbolizes life, light, and order, while the devouring snakes represent the underworld and the cyclical nature of sacrifice. For the Toltecs, these forces weren't good versus evil, but 2 essential parts of a single, unified cosmos. Harmony wasn't the absence of conflict, but the perfect balance between these opposing energies. This theme of duality is everywhere in Toltec art. Let's look at the famous Chacmul statues. These reclining figures, with their heads turned 90 degrees, and a bowl or plate held over their stomach, have puzzled archaeologists for decades. They are found throughout Mesoamerica, but the ones at Tula are some of the earliest and most classic examples. The prevailing theory is that the bowl was used to hold offerings, perhaps even the hearts of sacrificed individuals, presented to the gods. The figure's posture is unique. It's neither fully at rest nor fully active. It exists in a liminal state, a bridge between the human world and the divine realm. The Chacmul embodies the role of a messenger, a conduit through which offerings from the earth could be passed to the heavens, maintaining that crucial harmony between the 2 realms. It's a powerful, tangible representation of the connection the Toltecs felt with their gods. Beyond stone, the Toltecs were also masters of mural painting, though sadly, far less has survived the ravages of time. Fragments found at Tula reveal a rich palette of reds, blues, yellows, and whites. These murals depicted complex scenes of mythology, ritual, and daily life. They showed processions of priests, warriors engaged in battle, and abstract symbols representing cosmic forces. One famous fragment depicts a coyote, a symbol of cunning and warrior societies. Another shows a walking figure adorned with shells and feathers, possibly a merchant or a pilgrim. These murals weren't just decoration. They were living textbooks, teaching the populace about their history, their religion, and their place in the universe. They transformed stone walls into vibrant narrative canvases. Let's also talk about the smaller, more personal forms of Toltec art. They were skilled in pottery, creating what is known as plumbate, where this pottery has a unique, almost metallic sheen, a result of the special clay and firing techniques they used. These weren't just everyday vessels. They were luxury trade goods, found as far away as Costa Rica, showcasing the vast influence of the Toltec trade network. The designs often featured animal effigies, jaguars, eagles, ducks, each carrying its own symbolic weight. The jaguare represented night, the underworld, and shamanic power. The eagle, soaring in the sky, symbolized the sun, the heavens, and the warrior spirit. Owning a piece of plumbate where was a status symbol, a connection to the sophisticated and powerful Toltec culture. We also see their incredible craftsmanship in objects made from obsidian, shell, and bone. They carved intricate ear spools, pendants, and ceremonial knives. A recurring motif in these smaller works is the butterfly, or asterisk papal OTL asterisk. As we saw on the Atlantean warriors' breastplates, the butterfly was a complex symbol. It represented the souls of fallen warriors, fire, and transformation. Its journey from a caterpillar to a winged creature mirrored the soul's journey after death. By wearing these symbols, the Toltecs carried their cosmology with them, embedding their beliefs into the very fabric of their daily lives. So, when we look at Toltec art, what do we see? We see more than just stone statues and pottery. We see a worldview. We see a culture obsessed with order, balance, and the cyclical nature of existence. Their art was a tool for communicating these complex ideas. The stoic warriors of Tula were not just soldiers. They were cosmic guardians. The serpent wall wasn't just a boundary. It was a depiction of the universe in constant, dynamic flux. The Chakmul was not just a statue. It was a sacred altar, connecting humanity to the divine. The legacy of the Toltecs is undeniable. When the Aztecs later built their empire, they looked back to the Toltecs as their intellectual and artistic predecessors, the epitome of a golden age. They adopted many Toltec gods, artistic styles, and architectural concepts. The Toltec feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl became one of the most important deities in the Aztec pantheon. The Toltec artistic linguista, blend of naturalism and abstract symbolism. The focus on duality and the celebration of warrior prowess laid the foundation for much of the Mesoamerican art that followed. In every serene relief, every powerful statue, and every colorful mural, the Toltecs carved their story into the very stone of Mexico. It's a story of a universe held in delicate harmony, a balance between heaven and earth, life and death, warrior and god. Their art is a timeless invitation to contemplate our own place in the grand cosmic dance. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of Toltec art. I hope it's given you a new appreciation for this incredible ancient culture. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the art and history of our world. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through the wonders of ancient Mesoamerica. Today, we're taking a brief, yet profound, detour from our main narrative to explore a concept that lies at the very heart of what we've been discussing. It's an idea that shaped not just a civilization, but the aspirations of those who followed. We're delving into the philosophical world of the Toltecs to understand a powerful term. Now, you might be thinking, what exactly is Toltecuhtli? It's an Nahuatl word, and like many ancient concepts, it's packed with layers of meaning that a simple translation can't fully capture. But if we were to try, it would mean something along the lines of the art of being Toltec, or the Toltec way of life. However, it's so much more than that. Toltecayotel represents a cultural ideal, a pinnacle of human achievement, and spiritual refinement. It was the gold standard for what it meant to live a balanced, masterful, and meaningful life. Imagine a society where the ultimate goal wasn't just wealth or power, but a state of being. That's what the Toltecs aimed for. Toltecayotel was the pursuit of excellence in every single facet of existence. It wasn't just about being a skilled craftsman or a brave warrior. It was about integrating all parts of yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, and your role in the communion too. A harmonious whole. It was the philosophy of mastery. So, what did this mastery look like in practice? Let's break it down into its core components. First, there was mastery in art. When we think of the Toltec, we often picture the magnificent Atlantean figures at Tula, those colossal stone warriors standing stoic and strong. These aren't just impressive statues. They are physical manifestations of Toltecayotel. The precision, the skill, the artistry required to create them speaks to a deep commitment to excellence. For the Toltecs, art wasn't just decoration. It was a spiritual practice, a way of bringing divine principles and cosmic order down to earth. Every sculpture, every piece of pottery, Every intricate design was a reflection of their understanding of the universe. The artist wasn't just a maker. They were a conduit for a higher truth, and their craft was their path to enlightenment. Next, we have mastery in life. This is where the philosophy becomes deeply personal. Quetzalcoatl was a guide for how to conduct oneself in the world. It was about living with integrity, purpose, and self-control. The Toltecs believed that each individual was an artist whose greatest creation was their own life. This meant cultivating virtues like discipline, courage, and wisdom. It meant being a responsible member of the community, honoring your commitments, and contributing to the well-being of the whole. Think of it as a form of personal development, an ancient school of thought dedicated to helping people become the best possible versions of themselves. It was about being a person with a face and a heart, a common Nahua phrase for a mature, well-rounded individual. Your face was your identity, your unique personality, and your heart was your dynamic life force. Toltecoatl was the process of cultivating both. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there was mastery in spirit. This is the metaphysical core of Toltec. The Toltecs were profound spiritual seekers. Their cosmology was complex, revolving around the balance of dualities light and dark, creation and destruction, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. The spiritual master, the true Toltec, was someone who could navigate these cosmic forces. Te, were, te, man of knowledge, a seer, a shaman, or a priest who had transcended the illusions of the everyday world to perceive a deeper reality. This spiritual mastery involved rigorous practices, meditation, and a deep understanding of astronomical cycles and sacred calendars. It was about achieving a state of inner peace and equilibrium, becoming a flawless mirror that could reflect the world without distortion. This inner clarity allowed them to act with impeccable timing and wisdom, to become a true co-creator with the universe. So, Toltecoatl was this incredible trinity of mastery in art, in life, and in spirit. It was the seamless integration of external skill, internal character, and cosmic connection. This ideal was so powerful, so compelling, that it didn't disappear when the Toltec capital of Tula declined. In fact, its influence grew. The civilizations that came after, most notably the Aztecs, look back on the Toltec era as a golden age. For the Aztecs, the word Toltec became synonymous with artist, master, craftsman, and wise person. To say something was Toltec was the highest form of praise. When the Aztec Mexica were establishing their own empire, they actively sought to legitimize their rule by linking themselves to the Toltec lineage. Aztec rulers claimed descent from Toltec kings. Their priests and wise men, the Tlamatinam, studied and revered the principles of Toltec. They saw it as the foundation of all legitimate knowledge, art, and governance. The Aztecs collected Toltec artifacts, copied their artistic styles, and, most importantly, adopted their philosophical framework. For the Aztec priests, Toltecoatl was the blueprint for a civilized and righteous society. It was the heritage they sought to preserve and embody, the source of their cultural and spiritual authority. Think about how the ancient Greeks revered Homer, or how Renaissance artists looked back to the classical world of Rome. Now, the kind of reverence the Aztecs had for the Toltecs and their philosophy of Toltec, it was a guiding light, a standard of perfection that they aspired to. It informed their educational systems, where young nobles were taught to be eloquent speakers, responsible leaders, and spiritually aware individuals. It shaped their art, which, while having its own distinct character, often drew upon Toltec motifs and ideals of balance and order. This legacy shows us that Toltecoatl was more than just a historical curiosity. It's a timeless philosophy about human potential. It teaches that true mastery isn't just about what you can do, but about who you are. It's about the beautiful, challenging, lifelong work of sculpting your own character, living with purpose, and seeking a connection to something larger than yourself. The Toltecs believed that every human being had the potential to become an artist of the spirit, and that our lives are our ultimate masterpiece. This concept of creating a work of art with your life is a powerful message that resonates even today. In our modern world, we often separate our work, our personal lives, and our spiritual beliefs into different boxes. Toltec reminds us that they are all interconnected. The care and attention you bring to your work is a reflection of your inner state. The integrity with which you live your life is a spiritual practice. And the art you create, whether it's a painting, a song, or even a well-tended garden, can be a connection to the divine. As we continue our exploration of Mesoamerican history, keep this concept of Toltecoatl in mind. You'll see its echoes in the art of the Aztecs, in the structure of their society, and in the wisdom of their philosophical texts. It is the invisible thread that connects the grandeur of their temples to the intimate quest for personal meaning. The legacy of the Toltecs isn't just in the ruins of Tula. It is in this profound and enduring ideal of human excellence that inspired a whole civilization and continues to inspire us today. Thank you so much for joining me on this philosophical interlude. It's these deep ideas that truly bring history to life. If you found this exploration of Toltecoatl fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the ancient world. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We love hearing from you, so please share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom. Hello myth lovers, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we journey back in time to the heart of Mesoamerica to unravel the story of a god who was more than just a deity. He was a symbol of creation, wisdom, and the very winds of change. We're talking, of course, about Quetzalcoatl, the magnificent feathered serpent. But this isn't a story about an ancient god who faded into history. This is the story of his rebirth, a tale of how his legend transformed, merged with new beliefs, and even shaped the course of a continent's history. How did the story of a Mesoamerican deity become entangled with the arrival of European conquerors? And how did this powerful symbol of indigenous culture survive and evolve through centuries of upheaval? Fasten your seatbelts, because we are about to explore the incredible resilience and transformation of the feathered serpent's myth, a journey that spans empires, crosses oceans, and continues to inspire us to this day. To truly grasp Quetzalcoatl's rebirth, we first need to understand who he was. In the bustling cities of the Toltecs, Mayans, and later, the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl was a cornerstone of the cosmos. He wasn't just a serpent with feathers. He was the Lord of the Dawn, the patron of priests, the inventor of the calendar, and the giver of maize to humankind. He represented the duality of existence, the earthbound serpent and the celestial bird, the material and the spiritual bound together. Legend spoke of his reign as a golden age of peace and prosperity, but they also told of his tragic departure, tricked by his rival, Tezcatlipoca, the god of the smoke and mirror. Ashamed, Quetzalcoatl fled his capital city of Tula. As he left, he prophesied his eventual return from the east, a promise that would echo through the centuries, setting the stage for one of history's most dramatic and misunderstood encounters. This prophecy wasn't just a story, it was a deeply ingrained belief, a cultural expectation waiting to be fulfilled. Now, let's fast forward to the year 1519. On the eastern coast of what is now Mexico, strange ships appear on the horizon, larger than any canoe the locals had ever seen. From them emerged pale-skinned, bearded men, clad in shining metal. Their leader, Hernan Cortes, for the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II, this arrival was a terrifying puzzle. Was this the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy? Did the year one read in the Aztec calendar coincide with the prophesied return of Quetzal? This is where history and myth collide in a spectacular and ultimately tragic fashion. The idea that Moctezuma fully believed Cortes was Quetzalcoatl is a powerful narrative, but modern historians view it with more nuance. It's more likely that Moctezuma was cautious, uncertain, and perhaps used the myth as a framework to understand this unprecedented event. He sent lavish gifts, symbols of divinity, perhaps as a test or an offering to appease these powerful newcomers, whoever they were. The Spaniards, in turn, were quick to recognize the power of this story. They saw how the legend of a returning god could be used to their advantage, creating an aura of divine destiny around their conquest. This initial, fateful misunderstanding was just the beginning of the legend's transformation. As the Spanish conquest swept across the land, a new process began. Syncretism. This is the blending of different belief systems, and it became a crucial survival mechanism for indigenous cultures. The Spanish friars, eager to convert the native population to Christianity, faced a challenge. How could they explain their faith to people whose spiritual world was so vastly different? They found their answer in Quetzalcoatl. Some missionaries, like Diego Duran, began to drop. They saw Quetzalcoatl's story, a virtuous teacher who promised to return, and connected it to the life of Jesus Christ. Others even theorized that Quetzalcoatl was, in fact, one of the lost apostles, St. Thomas, who they believed had traveled to the Americas to preach the gospel centuries earlier. This was a strategic move. By framing Quetzalcoatl as a precursor to Christianity, they made the new religion feel less alien, more familiar. For the indigenous people, this blending was a way to hold on to their ancestral figures in a disguised form. They could worship at a Christian altar while privately seeing the face of their own beloved deity, the Feathered Serpent, ensuring his spirit endured under the watchful eye of the new regime. The transformation of Quetzalcoatl didn't stop with the colonial era. As the centuries passed, he became a powerful symbol for a new identity, a Mexican identity. During the fight for independence from Spain in the 19th century, figures from the Aztec past were reclaimed as national heroes. Quetzalcoatl, the wise ruler of a mythical golden age, was a perfect emblem of a pre-colonial past, a symbol of indigenous greatness before European interference. He represented a uniquely American heritage, distinct from the Spanish crown. This revival continued into the 20th century. Artists of the Mexican muralism movement, like the great Diego Rivera and Jose Clemente, plastered the walls of public buildings with stunning depictions of the Feathered Serpent. In their art, Quetzalcoatl wasn't just a god. He was a symbol of indigenous wisdom, creativity, and resistance. He was the spirit of a nation forging its own modern identity by looking deep into its ancient roots. He became a cultural icon, appearing in literature, music, and art, representing the enduring soul of Mexico itself. And this brings us to today. The rebirth of Quetzalcoatl is far from over. In the 21st century, his influence is more global than ever. He is a star of popular culture, appearing in video games, movies, and fantasy novels, often portrayed as a powerful, ancient dragon or a wise, mystical being. Within the New Age movement, Quetzalcoatl is sometimes embraced as an ascended master, a figure of cosmic wisdom and spiritual enlightenment, disconnected from his specific cultural origins but still embodying a universal quest for knowledge. And most importantly, for many people of Mexican and indigenous descent, he remains a vital link to their heritage. He is a symbol of pride, resilience, and the deep, rich history of the Americas. His story is taught to children. His image is celebrated in festivals like the spring equinox at Quetzalcoatl, where a serpent of light and shadow appears to descend. A pyramid of Kukulkan is Mayan name. From an ancient deity to a colonial puzzle, from a national icon to a global pop culture figure, Quetzalcoatl has proven to be eternally adaptable. So, what can we learn from the incredible journey of the Feathered Serpent? The story of Quetzalcoatl's rebirth is a powerful lesson in the resilience of myth. It shows us that stories and symbols are not static relics of the past. They are alive, they breathe, they adapt, and they are constantly reinterpreted by new generations to meet new challenges. The legend of Quetzalcoatl survived conquest, colonization, and the passage of centuries by merging, transforming, and taking on new meanings. It's a testament to the enduring power of culture and the human need to find meaning in the symbols of our ancestors. The Feathered Serpent continues to fly not just in the pages of history books, but in the heart of a culture and the imagination of artists and in the spirit of a people who refuse to let their heritage be forgotten. He reminds us that even when empires fall and worlds collide, the stories we tell have the power to be reborn again and again. Thank you so much for joining us on this fascinating journey through history and myth. What does Quetzalcoatl represent to you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. We'll see you next time! Welcome back to our journey through the echoes of history. Today, we're fast-forwarding through centuries of silence to arrive in the age of discovery, not of new lands, but of lost worlds buried right beneath our feet. For hundreds of years after its fall, The magnificent Toltec capital, Tula, lay dormant, its stone warriors sleeping under layers of earth and time, its stories fading into the realm of myth. Local people knew of the mounds, of course, whispers of an ancient city, but to the wider world, the Toltecs were more legend than reality. Then, the 19th century dawned, and with it, a new kind of explorer emerged. The archaeologist, armed not with swords, but with trowels, brushes, and an insatiable curiosity. These pioneers began to question the old stories. Could the legendary Tolan of the Aztecs, the city of reeds and wisdom, actually be a real place? The search was on. Early explorers and antiquarians made preliminary trips, mapping strange mounds and collecting surfaced artifacts. Their reports were like tantalizing trailers for a blockbuster movie yet to be made. They were chipping away at the edges of a monumental secret. The real breakthrough, however, came in the 20th century. Imagine the scene in the 1940s. Archaeologist Jorge Acosta and his team arrive at what is now known as Tula. The landscape is a series of unassuming hills, covered in scrub and cacti. But Acosta and his colleagues saw more. They saw the ghosts of a city. They began to dig, and what they found would rewrite the history of Mesoamerica. With every shovelful of dirt, a piece of the puzzle reappeared. First, the outlines of plazas and ball courts, then the foundations of palaces and temples. It was like watching a photograph develop in a dark room, the faint image of a forgotten civilization slowly coming into focus. The local legends were being proven true, layer by layer. The air must have been electric with anticipation. Each new find, whether a piece of pottery or a fragment of a fresco, was a direct message from the past. Then came the moment that would define Tula for the modern world. As the team carefully cleared the summit of what they called Pyramid B, they felt their tools hit something solid. It wasn't just rock. It was carved stone. Slowly, painstakingly, they brushed away the soil, and a face emerged. Then another, and another. Standing in a row, buried up to their chests, were the Atlanteans, the colossal stone warriors we know so well today. Imagine that discovery. For centuries, these 4.5 meter tall soldiers had stood guard over an empty temple, their watch finally ending as they were consumed by the earth. And now, they were seeing the sun for the first time in nearly 1,000 years. It wasn't just an archaeological find, it was a resurrection. These weren't just statues, they were the embodiment of Toltec power, silent witnesses to a bygone era of glory and might. The discovery confirmed that this was no ordinary settlement. This was the heart of an empire. Acosta's work was transformative. He and his team didn't just unearth statues. They uncovered the very layout of the ceremonial center. They found the serpent wall, the Quetzalcoatl, with its incredible reliefs of skeletal figures devouring human hearts, a stark reminder of the Toltecs' worldview. They pieced together the story of the burned palace, its charred pillars telling a tale of a violent, fiery end. Each artifact was a word, each structure a sentence, and together they began to form the lost language of Tula. But archaeology is a never-ending story. The work at Tula didn't stop with Acosta. Subsequent generations of archaeologists have continued to explore the site, employing new technologies to see what earlier eyes could not. Ground-penetrating radar now reveals structures buried deep underground, and advanced chemical analysis of artifacts tells us about gigach trade networks and diet. We've learned that Tula was a cosmopolitan hub, a melting pot of different cultures, with neighborhoods details to people from different regions of Mesoamerica. The unearthing of Tula also helped scholars untangle the complex relationship between the Toltecs and the civilizations that followed. Suddenly, the Aztec accounts of their noble Toltec heritage weren't just myth-making. They were rooted in a tangible, historical reality. The art styles, architectural motifs, and religious concepts found at Tula were now seen as clear predecessors to Aztec culture. The rediscovery of Tula provided the missing link, the chapter 0 for the story of the great central Mexican empires. Today, when you walk through Tula, you are walking through the legacy of those archaeologists. You are seeing the city through their eyes, following in their footsteps. The site is no longer a collection of mysterious mounds, but a living museum, a testament to both the Toltecs who built it and the modern-day explorers who brought it back to light. It's a powerful reminder that history is not just something that happens. It's something that can be lost, and with dedication and a bit of luck, found again. The work is far from over. Much of Tula remains unexcavated, its secrets still waiting patiently beneath the Mexican sun. Who knows what discoveries the next generation of archaeologists will make? What new stories will they unearth from the silent soil? The rediscovery of Tula is a powerful lesson. The past is never truly gone. It's just sleeping, waiting for us to come and listen to its echoes. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible archaeological adventure. The story of the Toltecs is a profound one, and we're so grateful to share it with you. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into our shared human past. We'll see you in the next chapter. Hello, and welcome back to our channel. Have you ever stumbled upon the word Toltec in a modern self-help book? I heard it mentioned in a discussion about ancient wisdom and wondered, who were these people, really? Today, we dive in deep into the fascinating legacy of the Toltecs and exploring how their mystique continues to influence our modern world, from philosophy and art to the very way we think about personal freedom. Let's journey back in time. The historical Toltecs were a powerful civilization in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, flourishing around the 10th to 12th centuries. Their capital, Tolan, or modern-day Tula, was a city of incredible artistry and architectural marvels. We can still see the remnants of their greatness in the colossal stone warrior statues, the Atlantean figures that stand guard over their ancient pyramids. These weren't just warriors. They were symbols of a society that valued strength, discipline, and a deep connection to the cosmos. Archaeologists see them as master builders and artisans who set a new standard for civilization in the region, influencing later cultures, most notably the Aztecs, who revered the Toltecs as their intellectual and cultural predecessors. For the Aztecs, the word Toltec became synonymous with artisan or wise man. To have a Toltec heart was the highest compliment, meaning one was skilled, worthy, and true. But the Toltec story doesn't end with the fall of their city. It transformed into a powerful legend, a mythic ideal of a golden age of wisdom and spiritual enlightenment. This is where the historical Toltecs merged with the Toltec of modern spiritual thought. The legend speaks of a king and high priest, Quetzalcoatl, a figure of immense wisdom who presided over this golden age. This Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent, became a symbol of the union between the earthly and the divine, the material and the spiritual. It is this legendary, almost mythical version of Toltec wisdom that has been resurrected in our contemporary world. So, how did this ancient mystique find its way onto our modern bookshelves and into our daily conversations? The resurgence began largely in the 20th century, as anthropologists and esoteric writers started to piece together the fragmented history and mythology of Mesoamerica. They were fascinated by the Toltec emphasis on inner knowledge and perception. But the person who truly catapulted the Toltec tradition into global consciousness was Carlos Castaneda. Through his series of books, beginning with the teachings of Don Juan, Castaneda introduced millions to a modern-day shamanic path he claimed was rooted in Toltec wisdom. His stories of a man of knowledge, peyote, ceremonies, and alternate realities were captivating, blurring the lines between anthropology, fiction, and spiritual guidance. While the academic and factual validity of Castaneda's work is hotly debated to this day, there's no denying his impact. He planted a seed in the collective imagination, associating the Toltec name with a secret, powerful knowledge system, a way of seeing the world beyond ordinary perception. He introduced concepts like the tonal and the nagal, the known world and the world of the unknown, and the idea of being an impeccable warrior in the battle for awareness. Following in this wake, other authors brought their own interpretations of Toltec wisdom to the forefront. The most prominent of these is undoubtedly Don Miguel Ruiz, with his international bestseller, The Four Agreements. This book simplified the esoteric teachings into 4 practical, powerful principles for daily life. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And always do your best. Ruiz's work struck a chord with millions, because it was unbout complex rituals or abstract cosmology. It was about breaking free from self-limiting beliefs, what he calls the domestication of the human mind. He framed Toltec wisdom as a path to personal freedom. The impeccable word is about using language to create love and truth, not poison. Not taking things personally is about understanding that others' actions are a reflection of their own reality, not yours. Not making assumptions encourages clear communication to avoid suffering. And always doing your best is about taking action with your full heart, regardless of the outcome. These simple yet profound ideas offered a clear roadmap for navigating the complexities of modern life, and they became a cornerstone of the modern self-help movement. The influence doesn't stop with books. The Toltec mystique permeates modern art, with artists drawing inspiration from the powerful imagery of the feathered serpent, the warrior figures, and the geometric precision of their designs. In philosophy, the Toltec idea of creating your own reality through perception resonates with existentialist and postmodern thought. The concept that our reality is a dream of the planet, Astries puts it, encourages us to question the narratives we've been told and to become the artists of our own lives. It's a powerful call to personal responsibility and creative living. So, when we talk about the Toltecs today, we are often referring to this beautiful synthesis of history, legend, and modern interpretation. We're talking about a lineage of wisdom that encourages us to be spiritual warriors, not fighting others, but fighting our own internal limitations, our own fears, and the parasite of the mind that feeds on negative emotions. It's a path of awareness, impeccability, and, ultimately, love. The historical Toltecs of Tula may have vanished centuries ago, but their spirit, magnified through legend and reinterpreted for our times, is more alive than ever. They stand as enduring symbols of the human quest for wisdom, mastery, and a deeper connection to the truth of who we are. They remind us that ancient wisdom isn't just for history books. It's a living, breathing guide that can help us navigate our lives with more grace, freedom, and joy. What are your thoughts on this modern interpretation of Toltec wisdom? Have you read the Four Agreements, or been influenced by these ideas? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the Toltec mystique. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient wisdom in the modern world, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into history, philosophy, and culture. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Until next time, stay curious. Start with a slow, panoramic shot of the Tula archaeological site at dusk. The sky painted with orange and purple hues. The camera focuses on the Atlantean figures as the narration begins. Hello, and welcome back. We've journeyed together through time, tracing the rise and fall of a civilization shrouded in mystery and legend. We've walked the plazas of Tula, deciphered the symbols carved in stone, and debated the very identity of their most legendary ruler, Quetzalcoatl. Now, as our journey reaches its end, we find ourselves not at a conclusion, but at a new beginning. This is Chapter 20, Whispers of the Ancients. As twilight settles over the highlands of Hidalgo, a profound stillness envelops the ruins of Toltec. The day's visitors have departed. The cacophony of the modern world fades, and for a moment, you can almost hear it, a whisper on the wind, a faint echo from 1,000 years ago. This isn't just a place of stone and dust. It's a place of memory, a place where a story continues to be told, long after its protagonists have vanished. The legacy of the Toltecs is not confined to these silent stones or the artifacts housed in museums. It's a living, breathing force that has woven itself into the very fabric of Mexico. To find it, you don't always need an archaeologist's trowel or a historian's textbook. Sometimes, all you need to do is look and listen. Think about the architecture, the concept of the Great Plaza, the column talls, the ball courts. These weren't just Toltec inventions. They became a blueprint. When you visit Chichen Itza in the Yucatan, hundreds of miles away, you see Tula reflected in its design. The Temple of the Warriors, with its forest of columns, is a direct echo of the burnt palace right here. This wasn't conquest in the traditional sense. It was a powerful transmission of ideas, a cultural ripple that spread across Mesoamerica, shaping the sacred spaces of civilizations that followed. Most notably, the Aztecs. The Aztecs, who rose to prominence centuries after Tula's decline, revered the Toltecs as their intellectual and spiritual ancestors. For them, the word Toltec was synonymous with artisan, wise man, or master craftsman. They looked back at the era of Tula as a golden age, a time of unparalleled artistic achievement and profound knowledge. To be of Toltec descent was the highest mark of nobility. The Aztec rulers actively sought to link their lineage back to the legendary kings of Tula, legitimizing their own power by claiming the mantle of this revered civilization. This reverence is etched into the Aztec language, Nahuatl, which is still spoken by over 1 million people in Mexico today. The very concept of Toltecaotl emerged from this admiration. It doesn't just mean the culture of the Toltecs. It represents a whole philosophy of life, a pursuit of balance, creativity, and spiritual enlightenment. It was the Aztec ideal of a perfected society, inspired by their vision of the Toltec past. So, when you hear Nahuatl spoken in a modern Mexican village, you are hearing a language that carries the weight and wisdom of this ancient admiration. The whispers of the Toltecs are embedded in its very grammar and vocabulary. And what about the myths? The story of Quetzalcoatl, the Feathered Serpent, is perhaps the most enduring legacy of all. Was he a king? A god? A priest? As we've discussed, the lines are beautifully, frustratingly blurred. But his story a tale of a benevolent ruler who brings knowledge and art, who is tricked by a rival deity, Tezcatlipoca, and forced into exile, vowing to one day return, became one of the foundational myths of Mesoamerica. This story wasn't just folklore. It was a cosmic drama that explained the cyclical nature of creation and destruction, the eternal struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, this ancient prophecy was tragically and fatefully projected onto them. The Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II, wrestling with the meaning of Hernan Cortes' arrival, is said to have considered the possibility that this was the prophesied return of Quetzalcoatl. While historians debate the extent to which this belief influenced the Aztec response, there is no denying that the myth born in the Toltec era played a role on the stage of world history with consequences that reshaped a continent. The story continues to resonate. The image of the feathered serpent is one of Mexico's most iconic national symbols. You see it in murals by Diego Rivera, in modern sculpture, in folk art, and in the designs of contemporary fashion. It represents a deep connection to a pre-Hispanic identity, a symbol of indigenous wisdom and resilience. It's a whisper that has become a proud declaration. Let's step away from the grand narratives of empires and gods for a moment, and consider the smaller, more intimate legacies. Look at the pottery. The distinctive plumbeite ware, with its metallic sheen, was a hallmark of Toltec trade. The techniques for firing and glazing, the artistic motifs of eagles, jaguars, and coyotes, these skills and symbols didn't just disappear. They were passed down, adapted, and transformed by subsequent generations of potters. When you walk through a bustling market in Oaxaca or Puebla today and admire the vibrant ceramics, you are seeing the distant descendants of Toltec craftsmanship. The hands that shape the clay today are part of an unbroken chain of artistry stretching back thousands of years. The passion for creating beauty from the earth, for telling stories through shape and color, that is Toltecaotl in action. It's a legacy not just of kings and pyramids, but of the common artisan, the unnamed master who perfected their craft and shared it with their community. The same can be said for agriculture. The Toltecs, like the peoples before them, were masters of cultivating the triad of Mesoamerican life: maize, beans, and squash. But they also managed a complex system of trade, bringing in resources like turquoise, cacao, and exotic feathers. This sophisticated understanding of the land and its bounty is the foundation of modern Mexican cuisine. Every time a tortilla is pressed by hand, every time mole is slowly simmered with dozens of ingredients, every time corn is treated with lime in the process of nixtamalization, these are culinary traditions with incredibly deep roots. These aren't just recipes. They are ancient technologies of survival and celebration, perfected over millennia. The flavors of Mexico are, in many ways, the flavors of its ancient history. The whisper of the ancients is in the steam rising from a bowl of pozole and the smoky aroma of a roasted chili. Now, as the first stars begin to appear in the darkening sky above Tula, let's return to these silent warriors. The Atlantean columns stand resolute, their gazes fixed on the horizon. For centuries, they have stood watch, weathering storms, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, and guarding the memory of their creators. They don't represent an ending. They represent endurance. They remind us that history is not a collection of sealed chapters. It's a continuous, flowing river. The Toltecs may have abandoned this city. Their empire may have fragmented, but their spirit, their ideas, their art, and their stories flowed downstream, nourishing the cultures that followed. They became part of the groundwater of Mexican identity. The story of the Toltecs is a powerful meditation on what it means to leave a legacy. It's not always about immortalizing your name or building monuments that last forever. Sometimes, the most powerful legacy is the knowledge you pass on, the beauty you create, and the inspiration you provide for others. The Toltecs mastered this. They became a myth, a benchmark, an ideal, and in doing so, they achieved a form of immortality that stone and mortar alone could never provide. Our journey through their world has been one of piecing together fragments, a broken pot here, a carved stone there, a line from an ancient codex. We will likely never know the full story, and perhaps that's for the best. The mysteries that remain are what keep us coming back, what fuel our imagination, and what allow the whispers of the ancients to continue to speak to us. They invite us to listen, to wonder, and to see the world, not just for what it is, but for the countless stories it holds. As we end our series, the story doesn't stop here. The stars overhead are the same stars the Toltec astronomers once charted. The wind that blows through these ruins carries the same dust, the same scent of earth and time. The legacy of the Toltecs isn't just in the past. It is all around us, in the culture, the art, the language, and the spirit of Mexico. Their story continues to breathe in the wind, waiting for the next person who is willing to stand still and listen. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. It has been a privilege to explore this fascinating civilization with all of you. If you've enjoyed this series, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the mysteries of our shared past. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep listening to the whispers